It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy Anakos here. Jason Snell filling in for Alex Lindsay, the wonderful Shelley Brisbane from the Texas Standard. Maybe Tim Cook actually is stepping down. We're going to have to give some credence to those rumors. Jeff Williams is definitely out of the building. We'll talk about the amazing technology Apple uses to build its Apple Watches and what's next for the iPhone, all that and more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 999, recorded Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. Rough depowdering. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we talk about the latest Apple news. Andy Anako back from his trip in the woods. We have MacBreak leafy T-shirts. Steven Rubbles wasn't kidding. He has produced them.
I've heard from people who bought them and are extremely happy with them. It's a very limited edition. This is like if we were like actual Comic-Con superstars, sort of people who had our own signing tables, and like times in which for $60 you can get a signed thing, and for $200 you get a VIP like photo thing. Like there would be people who would be wearing these T-shirts like from 10 years from now.
I got it, Andy.
Basically, I'm not just like a fan.
I'm a super fan.
Who's coming to the con? Oh, I bet I could. No, it's like I got deep cut stuff.
I'm your number one fan, Andy.
The sort of thing where like the cast member from Firefly is like, that T-shirt is referencing a joke that I don't remember whatsoever, but I don't want this person to feel bad, so I'm going to laugh.
If you mention MacBreak Leafy in 10 years, no one's going to know. No one's going to know. Anyway, welcome back from the woods. Andy Anako. Jason Snell is also here. Hello, Mr. Snell.
I don't understand that joke either, because a week ago when you guys were recording, I was on an air. I was like over Greenland or something. So
where did you go?
I went to London for a week. I had a good time.
How nice.
Visited with Mike Hurley, did a live upgrade in his office, did some work, saw a soccer match, held Mike's new baby. That was very nice. Cute little baby. And but I missed
welcome back.
One MacBreak Weekly over it.
Well, it's not the first one you've missed this month.
That's this month. Not this month. Okay. Last month, maybe.
In the last couple of months.
I try not to miss.
No.
I'll have you know that my flight was a little close to MacBreak Weekly the previous week. And I said, when I said goodbye, I ran out the door, and I did make the flight, though. So that's
thank you. Yeah, we got you out there a little early. I remember.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Here is the MacBreak Leafy T-shirt, in case anybody wants to go to Steven
Don't understand it. Not going to ask.
.fm. Oh, man, you missed it. Andy couldn't get internet. So because it was a holiday, it was Veterans Day.
No. I could ordinarily. I can get internet at my house, but 10 minutes before showtime, it decided that, hey, what if
Veterans Day?
What if all of a sudden like Andy's internet didn't work, and he had to choose between, let's see if he can get his phone hotspot working, or can he what is open today that he can sit for 2.5 hours and do a show from. And I'm not saying that going to a picnic table where near a free public Wi-Fi access point was necessarily the right choice, but it was a successful choice.
Yes, it got a little windy at the end, but that's okay. Now, we do have a missing member this week. We're going to have to change the jingle because Alex Lindsay is on assignment. But good news, that means there's room for the wonderful Shelley Brisbane. Hello, Shelley from the Texas Standard.
Hi, Leo. I'd like a shirt that just says generic MacBreak guest star. Could you work that out for me?
Yeah. I'll make a jingle for you.
Radio professional.
You do radio, right, Shelley? You do a lot of it.
I do. Allegedly, yes.
Yeah. You have that great rich radio voice.
Why, thank you, Leo.
What'd you think?
From you.
I was before the show, I was playing an old, that was from 36 years ago, air check. And I was, as Jason noted, a little bit of we call him in the business, a puker.
Radio voice.
Radio voice.
We don't do that here on podcasting. We're more normal.
No puking on the pod.
I remember when I first started radio, they said you shouldn't do AM. You sound like you're because you're kind of sound like you're an FM guy, you know.
Wow.
So I think I puked it up because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we use our podcasting voices, which are different from our YouTube voices, I guess. I don't know.
Sure. They probably are.
I don't know how
what do you
it
think
works.
is characteristic of a YouTube voice? Hey kids, smash the button, ring the bell,
like and subscribe. Yeah,
hey friends, like and subscribe.
But was that an actual thing where it's like FM has wider dynamic range, and they might be actually playing it through something with a two-way speaker? So therefore, let's hire a baritone for this time.
It was
slot?
two things. One, it was they did use less compression because they thought maybe audiophiles would be listening. And so you heard all the compression on the KMBR stuff. It was really boom, boom, boom. But the other thing was they played hipper music. So
yeah,
they were all a little bit stoned all the time. Not all of them.
That sounds like early FM because there's a lot of peaking on 90s FM zoo radio.
Now there is, yeah.
Well,
it's all changed.
Very diverse programming, both Foghat and Poco.
Hey, guess what? We've been mocking Mark Gurman for probably about a year for saying Tim Cook was going to retire. Now the Financial Times is jumping in on this and saying, yeah, he's going to retire soon. Apple intensifies succession planning for CEO Tim Cook. The board is preparing for Tim to step down as early as next year.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I wonder if like Jason had the same sort of like deep memory that I did. This is it's Financial Times, so that's like I don't want to say a real newspaper, but it is like
more credible.
It's respectable,
and respectable, right? Also, it is a short piece that has 4 bylines on it, so it's not like just someone read something on Weibo and said, "Okay, well, I got a deadline. Let's just put this in." And I suddenly thought I remembered the time when like the New York Post ran an article about how NBC is really, really interested in the succession plan for Johnny Carson, and they're this close to signing Jay Leno. And it turned out that it was like a faction that was trying to like, maybe if we get this into the paper, it will nudge Johnny Carson to decide to leave sooner rather than later. You think
that's what this is? Is this kind of a plan?
I'm saying that that's what it made me think of. That it's very, very strange that okay, well, this newspaper has like this piece in there. I'm sure that Tim Cook does not leave that seat until he is absolutely ready. But this sounds like there's a reason why somebody or a faction of people have decided to talk to the Financial Times and hope that they will maybe print this story. I don't know what this is.
Feels like it's prepping the market for it. I mean, you can't just have Tim Cook say, bye-bye, I'm leaving. You have to prepare the market, whether it's a trial balloon to see whether shareholders are going to freak out or whether it's just this is going to happen. So get ready, make your plans.
And the story made it very, very clear that, well, if there is any sort of a change in CEO, it's definitely not going to happen until they report the next quarter results. Again, telling people that steady on. If this happens, it's not going to happen tomorrow. No, if they're making plans, don't try to read into this and think that, oh, well, Tim is deathly ill and he's been ill for the past 18 months and the management has been going by a thread. All I'm saying is that it's the sort of piece where, as we were been talking, when Mark Gurman reports on that, it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Don't know where he got his information from, but that's kind of interesting. When a rumor site is talking about it, it's like it's a perennial story that you could write at any time about speculating like what happens after Tim leaves, whenever he wants to leave. When Financial Times reports it under these circumstances, it means that we have to pay attention and start wondering, is there an actual there's like a date circled on a calendar that says if everything goes right and people respond well to this piece, then this is when we're going to announce, and this is when we're going to announce not a date of leaving, but a start of a long transition. So it's why it was a very, very interesting story. That's what I was getting at.
I think Shelley's right that this is almost certainly a plant, and I think a plant from the top, like from the board. I think what we just saw is the official sort of like startup chime of the Tim Cook transition.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Right? Like the machinery now begins to turn and spin, and because investors hate being surprised, right? And this is the most gentle way. I mean, in some ways, the Gurman's been laying the groundwork for a couple of years. He's the one who got John Turnus's name out there initially, and so he is thought of as being potentially the next CEO. And
which the Financial Times concurs with.
Yes, exactly. And then the FT, a respectable publication, comes in with their 4 bylines and says this, and it's like, I mean, Apple. I don't know all the instances of Apple leaking things to the press, but I can say that when it's the FT and the Wall Street Journal, those are usually signs that somebody is intentionally giving a heads up to someone. So I think, this is step 1 of a process. That means that there will probably be a step 2 where Tim Cook announces a succession plan publicly where there's like, here, John Ternus is going to be the CEO. I'm going to be the executive chairman. There's going to be a 6-month transition period. I will remain on the board. And I was surprised. I thought Tim Cook would stay longer, but I do wonder if part of the strategy here, because a lot of us have been talking about how Tim Cook is like the politician and the diplomat when it comes to Apple these days. And there's a lot of reasons that you're dealing with governments to have somebody in that spot, and you're dealing with the Trump administration especially. I wonder if what's going on here is not, well, Tim is tired of it and he's getting out. I wonder if it's Tim realizing that he's going to need to do that job. But what if the transition is that he does that job as the chairman of the board and lets John Ternus kind of grow into a role, if he's the CEO, while Tim is there to kind of like handle some of the top level diplomatic stuff. You know, Donald Trump has Tim Cook's phone number, right? Like I imagine that will continue to be the case. But if you're Tim Cook and you're like, how long am I going to do this before I'm truly retired? You might say, you know what? I'll give you 5 years, 10 years as chairman. But if that's the case, we should start this now, right? Instead of waiting around. And another thing, cautionary tale, there are lots of them in corporate America where you have an heir apparent and you've got a CEO who's clearly going to leave sometime, and they wait so long that the heir apparent leaves, or there's too much infighting and everything gets kind of ugly. And I wonder if it
comes back to Jay Leno.
It does. And I was thinking about Disney as well, and the various Bob Iger successors who were ready to step in, and then he would just never leave, and then they would leave, or they would fight it out amongst themselves, and the ones who lost would leave, and then the guy who won also left and was replaced by Bob Iger returning, right? Like, so I wonder if there's some of that.
That was kind of an outlier, actually.
That one got away from them a little bit, but like I think the idea that if you know this is going to happen, you've got timing, you've got a person who could step in, you can give him the support so he doesn't have to just be thrown in like Tim Cook kind of was because of Steve Jobs' various leaves and illnesses, and then ultimately his resignation a little bit before he died. Maybe you press the button now, and that's my guess. My guess is this is not Tim saying goodbye. This is Tim saying, "Look, if I'm going to if I'm going to do the executive chairman job for a while, we should do this now, because otherwise, like, what, I'm going to be CEO for 5 more years, and then I'm going to be." I think he wants to sort of like set the machinery going, and I think that's what this was. They pushed the button. Yeah.
Ternus is 50, which is roughly the same age Tim Cook was when he took over. Ternus is
he's been there for 24 years.
He's been there since 2001. He worked first on the cinema display.
Half his life at Apple.
Yeah. He's not an operations guy. He's a hardware guy. So that's a little bit of a change.
Well, and Tim Cook wasn't Steve Jobs. I actually think that's potentially a good thing, that the CEO can't do everything. CEO always has to rely on their lieutenants and other very talented people in their organization. But I think it's interesting that you have potentially a hardware guy. You'll play to his strengths, and then he'll have to find people around him who can play to the other parts of the business, just as Tim Cook, as an ops guy, was not a hardware, software, services design guy, and so he had to lean on those people. I mean, Steve Jobs was probably an all-timer at being a kind of a cross-trainer for this stuff, but even Steve Jobs needed to rely on people for the very technical stuff. So this seems like...
And he is the youngest person, according to Gurman, on the Apple executive team. So this is why you don't pick a Craig Federighi, for instance.
And I think this is why Jeff Williams' retirement is tied in here. I don't know if it's why Jeff Williams retired, but I think Jeff Williams wasn't going to stick around, and I think Jeff Williams maybe was there as the in case of emergency break glass CEO replacement, and then at some point he got to the point where he's like, well, now I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to retire, and so now we've moved to the next phase of succession planning.
Well, and it could be because his retirement was announced that allows the Financial Times leak to be timely. So it's not that the leak happened and Jeff said, I'm taking my toys and going home. That's a longer runway. Probably happened in the reverse direction. I mean, we're just speculating, obviously. But this also gives Cook and Ternus a long time to tag team, to go to shareholders and to those various diplomatic constituencies, introduce him. Tim can whisper under his breath, okay, you have to watch this guy for this reason, in a macro sense. And so it gives Ternus the incentive to stick around because Tim is still there to sort of hand him the reins. And then Ternus is probably going to pick his own team, which is going to take a number of months. And so, yeah, it seems very Apple and it's so conservative. I was thinking actually about how many tech companies have actually really long-term CEOs, but Apple is still very, very conservative, even among that group in terms of its executive team and the shuffles that happen, despite what we hear about, folks at the vice president ranks who leave periodically, either on their own terms or on somebody else's terms. But Apple is all about stability from a shareholder point of view, from a corporate point of view. And, a long time ago, Apple was this sort of, the hippie company that Jobs and Woz established, but they are as buttoned down and as corporate in terms of their transition and structure at the high levels as any company out there.
Jeff Williams' last day was Friday.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of interesting timing. Jeff Williams is only 59. So he probably, you think he left in a huff? No,
no. Only who knows whether he wanted that job or not. I do feel like they reached a point where he wasn't going to get that job. Right. I think that happened. Maybe he said, it's pure speculation now, but if I were in that position, I would, and I was thinking like, I got a lot of money, I work at Apple, I got all this, and it's very stressful, and I could retire and be with my family. Because remember, I think we all said at the time, he's kind of doing it right. Like a lot of these people stick around because they don't have anything else. And he's like, no, I'm going to retire. But maybe it is also like, oh, if I'm no longer sticking around because I'm the emergency option for Tim, then I'll just leave, right? Like I'll just take my money and go hang out with my family, which I think is very healthy, very healthy choice for anybody to make.
At a certain high level, it's not. You would think, you think about what a dream job would be, and it is a dream job, but it's still, you never know what the goals and priorities, both professionally and personally, a person has. So it's like, why would somebody leave at 53 years old where they could stay there for another 15 years at this company or running this movie studio or doing this or that? And sometimes it really is exactly as Jason said, where you just realize that, okay, I am at a very, very high level. If I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve, i.e. run a company that is worth $500 billion or more, it's not going to happen here. So I'm going to have to basically go someplace else to achieve that. Or I simply want to be the head of a very large philanthropic organization. And basically once a certain goal is either been achieved or has been pulled out from you, it's time to switch to different dreams. And that's often what happens.
Well, good on them. And what kind of a CEO will John Turnus be? Do we want to speculate on that? Do we know anything about him?
I've met him.
You have? Okay.
Yeah, I've met him.
Does he have a firm, manly handshake?
He does. I mean, I'll tell. He said my name unprompted, so I was like, he had to think about it. He's like, oh, hey, Jason. I'm like, great. John Turnus knows who I am. That's nice.
Pretty cool.
He's the head of hardware. I think what I would say is, if everybody's going to paint the narrative they want to paint, I would say I think it's healthy that different people have those different backgrounds to form their CEO-ship as based on kind of like a different perspective. I do think it's healthy. It's a little like, you want to promote different angles on your business from different ways of thinking. I think can be very healthy. And so honestly, you saw how Apple benefited from Tim Cook really thinking of everything from a status and operations perspective and optimizing a lot of things and changing how Apple offered products in a way that I think Steve Jobs would never have stood for offering last year's product after you announced this year's product. And Tim Cook made it like a whole system that allowed them to sell products a little bit cheaper and keep those products in the price list. I think that having Tim Cook's perspective has greatly, obviously, given the size of the company, benefited Apple. So I look at John Turnus, I'm like, well, wouldn't it be nice to have a CEO who is a little more focused on another area that Apple does well, hardware? The hardware that they build is world class. They've got their chip making operation that is world class. This is a place where they're really, really good. And so it's a little bit of a different emphasis, but it's still on stuff that's kind of core to Apple and what they do really well. So I think it'll just be different. The challenge for any CEO is the people around you to support you, because if John Turnus is a hardware guy, then he needs to lean on Craig Federighi and whoever else on the software side. And he needs to lean on an ops person, the current COO probably, who replaced Jeff Williams, to do the stuff that Tim Cook maybe did a little more of or cared a little more about But ultimately, as CEO, you've got to have, even in the stuff you care about, you've got to have somebody else working on it because you're the CEO now. Your job is different. But I think that it's not a bad thing to have somebody who cares about hardware in charge of Apple, honestly.
Yeah.
It seems like at that high level, it's not a matter of advocating for or being exclusively knowledgeable about one era. Okay, this is the hardware era of Apple as opposed to the ops era. You just ask better questions. You're going to have people in charge of those elements, whether it's ops or hardware or software, who are responsible for executing, and you're going to have a particular focus based on your own background, but you're really asking questions and supervising the implementation of those things rather than saying, okay, it's all about hardware now. I love hardware and I don't care about software. That's just, it's far too high a level for that to be sort of the perspective.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing, no matter what direction he decides to take Apple in, Apple has always been a company that is led by its CEO. He's not just a CEO. There are companies where the CEO is just the person who makes sure that people who need staples and paper clips have staples and paper clips. People who we have the right facilities, our investments are working exactly the way we want to. Apple has always had leaders who shape the future of the company with their intentions and with their philosophy of, here is why Apple needs to exist. Here are the things that we need to be doing. Again, not just to get the paper clips in the drawers, but here are the product lines that we need to start working on. There's a reason why Apple spent billions and billions of dollars trying to develop a car. There's a reason why they spent billions and billions of dollars on the Vision Pro. It's because there was a philosophy of, this is the sort of thing that Apple should be doing. There's a reason why Apple was not putting as much money into research as other companies were doing. So I'm not saying this as a guide to, here's what I think Jeff will be doing or what he should be doing, but Apple is going to fundamentally change based on the priorities that he communicates either explicitly or implicitly about who we are as a company, what we are supposed to be doing, and what is going to amount to a waste of our time and a waste of our potential as a corporation.
You can see, I mean, it's interesting because Tim Cook really was in the mold of Steve Jobs, really kind of followed in Steve Jobs' footsteps. But you've seen other companies. Jack Welch at GE comes to mind, where a new CEO completely changed the corporate culture, changed the plan of the company, changed how it works. It is possible to do that, to bring in somebody like that. But I have to think that Apple is really more focused on preserving its existing culture, right?
I don't want to say Apple will never do that, but I would say Apple would need to have fallen, completely lost its way, been viewed as a company that desperately needs a turnaround. And
GE wasn't in that position when Welch took over. GE was just like Apple at the time.
Yeah, but Apple,
big company.
Apple will not do that because Apple has built up the antibodies. I think everybody knows that Apple has the secret sauce, and it's their culture, and that comes from Steve Jobs. And that if you brought in an outsider, we've had in smaller roles multiple outsiders come in, hired by Apple, people who, by all accounts, were talented in whatever they were doing before, and none of them worked out. Like none of them. I think it's been since maybe Ron Johnson.
Retail was just
since Ron Johnson that they have not been able to do that. And so I think Apple has just accepted that the only way they're going to build leadership is internally. And
what you're saying is Apple is the Borg and resistance is futile. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that they are not, I mean, and this has been true since the beginning, or certainly since I started paying attention to them. They are not like other companies. And anybody who wants to run Apple or think about Apple like you can just use the corporate playbook and it'll work, will fail, because Apple has never been like that. Back in the PC days, people were like, they wanted it to be Microsoft, they wanted it to be Intel.
There is an example.
It was never any of those things.
Look what happened when Steve Jobs left, and we had Scully and then Spindler and Emilio. All examples of kind of anti-Steve Jobs
sort of
types.
Sales guys.
And it was terrible.
And I firmly believe that Steve Jobs knew when he came back that one of his, I think he was well aware, even before he got his cancer diagnosis, I think he was well aware that step one was save Apple, obviously. But one of the things he wanted to do was make Apple's culture reflect what he thought Apple stood for. And that is not necessarily just be Steve Jobs, right? It's think in a way that Steve Jobs thinks Apple should behave. And that's why he did Apple University, which is like an ongoing education for people who work at Apple to understand the culture and to further the culture. And as a result, one of Steve Jobs's products that's still with us is the Apple corporate culture. For better and worse, I think a lot of the ways when they fight regulators, it is part of that corporate culture. I think that is, it's you take it, for better and for worse. But I think that is true, and I think that after what happened in the 80s and early 90s, I think everybody who's got any involvement with Apple, including the board and the investors, the last thing you want to do is break the spell.
Yeah, and that's also a very, very interesting thing in terms of things I would like to see Apple change about its culture. Is there have been times in its past, and certainly within Tim's tenure, where it feels like Apple is just fighting battles that they don't need to fight, battles that they have lost time and time again, and they are continuing to fight these things to their own detriment simply out of stubbornness and dogma. I would like to see an Apple that decides that, you know what, we thought were very good reasons. There's still very good reasons, but we are not going to be in a position where we're just going to be petulant about this, that we're going to look at the entire game board, realize that we are just keep losing and losing and losing on this issue, and we are not going to magically cause the world to change and for us to win. We are going to find a way to get the best solution we can out of the situation that we don't like. Because again, time and time again, it just seems like you're just being jerks about this. Okay, you know what? It's like the player that, you know what? You got called out a third. You maybe it was a disputable call, but the thing is, you are not going to reverse it by storming the dugout and yelling and raising your hands, and in the post game always saying about, gosh, everything is so unfair to us, and we're just going to continue to stick to our guns because that was definitely my base. I was definitely not out. At some point, you start to think you start to think a little bit less of this person to say, you know what, the world exists in a certain way. Maybe you weren't the long-suffering person fighting for the future of your company and the world. Perhaps this is just a way where you just need to move on and adapt and do well in the world that you live in.
Well, he's going to have to deal with some interesting challenges to Apple. We're going to talk about those in just a little bit. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Jason Snell's back, and it's wonderful to have Shelley Brisbane with us talking Apple. More in just a moment. The show brought to you this week by Spaceship, my new favorite domain registrar. I love these guys. If you've been listening for a while, you know Spaceship has been part of our Twit world for some time. Actually, they're pretty new. They're new in general. There's a good reason for all the attention they've been getting. Spaceship just passed a major milestone: 5 million domains under management. And there's a good reason for it. People move to Spaceship. They go there to register new domains, but they also move their old domains to Spaceship because it's better. It delivers real quality and features that make sense, not just for domains, but it helps you with everything, building and running your online presence. It does hosting. They have a very strong business email offering. They have tools for creating and managing web apps, virtual private servers, all in one really beautifully designed, straightforward platform. Another reason people are switching, of course, is pricing. Essentially, it's Black Friday and Cyber Monday all year round at Spaceship. You don't have to wait for a sale to get a great deal. When I moved my domains over, got some great pricing. I registered because they have a really cool end-to-end encrypted messaging solution. I wanted to try, and I love it. So I registered leos.im there for $5 a year. I mean, wow. And that wasn't even using the Twit deal. Now, Twit listeners get exclusive offers. There's the prices up on your screen that make it even better. I mean, these guys, I don't know how they're doing it. So whether you're planning a new online project or moving an existing one, Spaceship has what you need to get launched, connected, and running smoothly, and more affordably, too. I know that's not the only concern, of course, but it is a great deal, especially if you're transferring over to a Spaceship from another domain registrar. They've really got a great deal for you. Spaceship.com/twit. Check out spaceship.com/twit to see the exclusive offers and find out why millions have already made the move. Spaceship.com/twit. They really do a good job with some really nice services. Spaceship.com/twit. Thank you, Spaceship, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. And you support us when you go to that address. Make sure you do spaceship.com/twit. So a couple things going on in the Apple universe. Massimo got a big jury verdict. Remember, this was the battle over the blood pulse oximeter that was built into the Apple Watch. Massimo said, no, we had that first. They went to trial, and the jury has awarded them $634 million. In some ways, I think it would be nice if Apple would just pay the money and move on. They say they're going to appeal. They have a workaround for the current watches, but it's not as good because you have to go to the iPhone. Apple said the verdict is contrary to the facts, man. And Apple has to appeal.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Apple keeps trying to paint Masimo as kind of like a patent troll company, saying, "Well, they don't make any products. They're
That's not true."
And their basis of this is that they didn't even announce like a physical watch that reads oxygen levels until like after the Apple Watch came out with that sort of thing. But the thing is, like, they have a decades-long history as medical technology, medical device sensor and reading manufacturing companies. They have a huge portfolio of patents that they've developed in-house by themselves. So it's kind of a little bit disingenuous for Apple to. I mean, they're fighting the suit, so they have to do that. But that's a little bit disingenuous. This is another one of those suits where they just keep losing and losing and losing, and they have to keep fighting it. It's not. I agree that I acknowledge that they can't just simply write a check for $750 million and move on with life, because this is. They need.
Why not? Why can't they just settle it and say, okay, fine, you win? Because why didn't they just license it? Is actually the bigger question.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. It's like they need to have a way that they can continue to create an Apple Watch that has the sensors and the technologies that they want to have. And one of the ways they can do that is to find a way to have a victory in this case. If they have a license, then they're basically subject to whatever Masimo wants to allow them to do, and also cutting into whatever future that Apple wants to have for the project, not only for the hardware, but also for the amount of money that's going to contribute to their mobiles division. So it's a complicated thing. It's just that, again, another case where they just keep losing and losing and losing. You would hope that in a perfect world, and I underscore perfect world, Apple and Masimo at this point would get together and say, okay, you know what? There's a reason why we keep losing these cases. This is judges and juries keep agreeing that yes, you impinged on Masimo's patents. We must find a way that we can continue to make Apple Watches to the benefit of our users in a way that maybe we won't be as free as possible, maybe we won't be as profitable as possible, but we need to be able to move forward with this.
Are they afraid of other companies coming forward? Is that why they want to fight this bitterly to the end?
I don't know that.
I don't think they have to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's enough for them to feel like we need to make an example of what we think is the right of it. But it fails the common sense test. And that's why a jury, not to mention judges, but that's why a jury, it's unsurprising that they ruled in Masimo's favor, because when you explain the facts to the level of a newspaper article, typically, but even if the jury has heard an entire trial, Apple hasn't really presented any evidence that Masimo is completely in the wrong. There are technical reasons that Apple can claim that it's in the right, but a jury is unsurprising. The jury says, hey, wait a minute, that's Masimo's stuff, and Apple took it and put it in their watch, and Apple Watch is a very profitable item and made by a very profitable company. And so from a somewhat emotional perspective, it's not surprising that the jury sided with them. And if Apple ever wins this case, it's going to be on a very arcane set of technicalities. And it does seem like this should be an indication to them that they are losing it. And the thing is, if they go to settlement talks now, they're not going to be paying $634 million. They're going to be billion. They're going to be paying some amount less than that, because that's what settlement talks are all about.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. Ultimately, I think Apple really does believe that they don't owe Masimo anything, and Masimo disagrees, and that is what the court system is for. It's funny, this jury verdict is not based on the patent that's a dispute in the import case. This is a different patent that already expired, but the damages were...
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I thought it was. This is from an expired patent from expired in 2022, but infringed before that, and so the damages are for the infringement before the expiry.
So that's why
of the
licensing
patent.
doesn't matter, because they don't need a license.
Right. They could have settled, but my guess is the settlement would have been about the larger issues, which they don't want to do because they believe that they can win on those. Apple believes they can win on those merits. For the record, the patent that holds up the import issue, that is the reason that the Oxygen has a weird thing in the US on the Apple Watch, that expires in a couple of years. And I think actually in 3 years, in 2028. So again, I don't think Apple's running out the clock necessarily, but I think Apple feels that they're in the right and doesn't want to pay Masimo. And I mean, in the end, they could settle unless they really don't want to, and in which case it grinds through the courts. Apple's gonna, if Apple has to pay, they got the money to pay. I think that this is one of those cases where
it's literally less than Apple makes in one day.
Yeah, I don't think this is like the EU and the DMA, because that is potentially changing. To that
one. That's a big one.
So that potentially changes Apple's business forever, right? This, like, either Apple's gonna pay Masimo something, who knows what it is, and then the patents expire, and that's the end. And so, I think this is really, Masimo thinks they're owed it, and Apple thinks they aren't. And
one of the things that probably convinced the jury is that when Apple was planning the Apple Watch back in 2013, they hired Masimo's chief medical officer. I mean, that kind of implies that they wanted to do something similar to what Masimo's doing.
The question is, was it just let's rip off Masimo, or was it, I don't think that their patents cover what we're doing? And again,
or this guy has expertise in creating this kind of thing, and this
why
is
we
what
have courts.
Need.
This is why we have courts and lawsuits, and if Masimo can prove it, then they deserve the money, right? That's just how it works. That's the system working.
The previous jury on this was hung. They couldn't make a decision, and so this is a progress, I guess, for Masimo. Now let's talk about the UK, because Apple has been trying to appeal a $2 billion App Store ruling from the United Kingdom, and the UK says no, you can't appeal that. Pay up. This is with the Competition Appeals Tribunal. They refuse the appeal. They say, in their judgment, Apple's arguments do not have any reasonable chance of success. So, $2 billion, that's a little more than $640 million. And as you say, it might have greater impact on how Apple does business. It's not just the money. This is the App Store fees thing. The EU has also said Apple is subject to the Digital Services Act, which means really Apple's going to have to change how it does the App Store in the EU, if not globally, right?
Yeah, and this is another one of those I think I consider to be dogmatic sort of responses. Like we're just kind of like how Steve Jobs used to fight Samsung on everything because we invented a slabs device that had rounded glass corners and has a button in the middle of it. The only place you could have stolen that from is from Apple, because we innovated and we created that. And like, hey, I've got actually a digital scale on my kitchen countertop that was made 3 years before the iPhone that looks exactly like that, Steve. I don't know where. And the big point is that that is different from Masimo, because they really do have to rework their entire business in how they run app stores, not only in this country, but that country, but also pretty much globally, to comply with a sort of set of rules that they fundamentally and foundationally don't agree that they should have to comply with. So they're continuing to fight this tooth and nail pretty much everywhere. And there was a story a couple of weeks ago where Google and Epic Games got together after basically the very last appeals and the very, very last ways to avoid a permanent injunction, to get rid of a permanent injunction that the courts had inflicted upon Google to close that case. They decided, okay, well, perhaps we can get together and create a system, basically reinvent how apps and app stores work on Android in such a way that Google gets a lot of what they want. We, Epic Games, and by hopeful extension, developers get what they want. And let's do something better than having to deal with this really, really brutal barbed wire style injunction that was imposed. And they came up with a system that at least when I read it, looks like, wow, like you don't necessarily have to agree that all phones should allow third-party outside app stores, outside the Play Store, or in Apple's case, outside the App Store. But if you are going to have to do this, this sounds like exactly the way you would want to do it. And after reading like this 32-page agreement that was proposed to this judge, it's like, wow, it really does seem as though this makes Android better. I would look favorably upon a platform like this that simply makes it okay for a third-party app store to exist in a way that it's been vetted and certified and not simply the wild, wild west. I think that Apple is kind of missing out on an opportunity to have that kind of same reinvention of the App Store. Remember that the App Stores were created 20 years ago under a set of circumstances that were unproven territory pretty much in mobile, at least in this fashion. And secondly, made sense during the marketplace and the way that apps were created, distributed, and sold at that time. It's not necessarily the case that this is so perfectly done in 2006, 2007, 2008 that needs absolutely no changes and modifications. There's no need to Wi-Fi. Why would anybody want Wi-Fi? Why would anybody want to connect to the internet? I think the way that that phones work in 1998 is perfect. We don't have to change a thing. Well, no, revolutions sometimes have to happen. And I think that Apple is not looking at opportunities to make the platform more relevant for developers that could actually enhance iPhone.
Apple also just won in the Supreme Court. This was kind of a silly battle over the camera patents. Dr. Timothy Pryor sued Apple in 2021, even though his patents had expired in 2020. He claimed Apple infringed upon my patents before they expired, Your Honor. Apple appealed, won in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. They declared the patents invalid. Dr. Pryor then appealed to the Supreme Court, which has refused to hear the case. So the Federal Circuit's ruling stands. So Apple's dodged that bullet. Gosh, they must have spent a lot of money on lawyers all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not for silly things either. It's like they have to keep batting away all kinds of garbage day in and day out, and they're not going to get it. When you're
a big company,
try.
$3.5 trillion company, people are going to try to come after you.
Well, Apple's going to be a target.
Yeah.
And I do feel it's fortunate if we're talking about the backgrounds we would like for an Apple CEO. At least it's not a lawyer. I mean,
yes, that's a good point. Yes.
It's funny. I mean, I believe that a lot of this, we're going to fight it in court, goes back to sort of a Steve Jobs kind of culture. But I think it's also true that when you have new leadership, it's an opportunity, even if everybody still has the opinions they had before, if you have new leadership, it's an opportunity to claim a reset, to say, so it's possible. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying it's possible that Tim Cook departing as CEO and John Turnus or someone else coming in as CEO could be an opportunity to reset their policy and relationship about things like the App Store. I wrote a piece a couple of years ago about this. Like, Apple has built on the Mac a perfect model that completely fits with what every regulator wants, which is this open model where there's an app store, but also you can just do whatever. And they've got their whole idea of you can notarize things. And so there's security is in place. And ultimately, if you want to flip a switch and run something that has not been approved or scanned by Apple, you can still do it, but you're going to get a lot of warnings. Like, that model works on the Mac. So it could be that you have a reset where a new CEO says, I mean, it's like politics. It's like the new leader comes in, even if it's the same political party, and says, well, we're going to make some changes to our policies. Let's reset the relationship with the EU or, whoever. I think that might happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but I think that it might be an opportunity for Apple to step back and say, would it be better for us to end this multi-front war that we've been fighting and come to a solution that's still pretty beneficial to us as the platform owner?
I kind of wish they would do this, honestly.
I think there's a strong argument that it's the right thing for them to do at this point. Is, do you want to keep this going? Now, that said, there are some stories about how there's a little bit, not of the DMA, but there are other parts of the European Commission where they're kind of retrenching and trying to deregulate a little bit and change their policy. And that makes me wonder if Apple is like, yeah, let's just keep holding out, and maybe everybody will give up. It might happen. I don't know, but it would be an opportunity with a new CEO to change if they wanted to.
Yeah. All right. That's enough of that. Enough talking about courts. And
we've done lawyers and money. How about guns next?
Yeah, do we have guns somewhere? We have Joe Rogan. We could, well, no, that's not. How about we talk about Apple's 2026 roadmap? I know this is very speculative. Are we going to see anything more in 2025? I don't think so, right? We're almost to Thanksgiving. There's no reason to announce anything more.
Over.
The most interesting story, of course, is the Mark Gurman story that Apple has lost interest in the Mac Pro, and that the Mac Studio, it's too bad. If Alex were here, I think we'd have more of a, we'll talk about it when he comes back, but none of you care, right?
It's over. It's over.
It has been for a while.
It has been for a while. Absolutely. Look, Apple Silicon has some fundamental things about it that make it great, that also make it inappropriate for a classical PC model, which is what the Mac Pro is, where you've got expansion slots that can have add-on GPUs and stuff like, and RAM and all of that. Like, Apple Silicon's not meant to do that. Apple has reaped the benefits, and Apple, meanwhile, has literally built the new Mac Pro. It's the Mac Studio, using one of those Ultra or Max chips, but the Ultra chip especially. Thunderbolt's really fast. If you really need outboard stuff, you can break out using Thunderbolt. Look, I think the Mac Pro only exists now because they apologized for they did the trash can Mac Pro, and then they had to apologize for that, and so they did this, and I think it's that litany of kind of failures that make them reluctant to do what they really ought to do, which is just say the Mac Pro doesn't make sense anymore. The Mac Studio is the new high-end Mac. The end. And I'm hopeful that they will do that at some point, because it just. No offense to people who loved their Mac Pros and all those slots and all of that, but the decisions Apple has made lead them in a different direction, and they're not gonna. Why would you invest a dramatic kind of decoupling of a lot of the things that make Apple Silicon what it is, just to sell a few thousand maybe of your lowest volume product? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, particularly in the world that Apple lives in, because there were a good amount of reasons to have. I've got a big box on my desktop or underneath my desk. It's got slots, and I can configure it exactly the way I want to. If I want a humongous amount of memory far beyond any sense of reality, I can do that. If I want to have 4 different GPUs, I can do that. If I want to have build a RAID inside this box, I can do that. There was a time where, I need a graphics workstation, or I need a video editing workstation, or I need a number crunching workstation. You need 10 or 15 years ago, there was a need for that sort of thing, and if Apple wanted to compete in that world of, there are people who actually need serious computing power, we need to be able to build that sort of stuff. And now they don't live in a world in which they can possibly compete with Windows machines and with Linux machines, because the definition of, I want a real workhorse, I really want a super powerhouse that's configured to my needs. Now it's okay, great. So are you training AI models? Are you basically fine tuning AI? Are you crunching enormous data sets? All these things are the sort of thing where if you have an open platform where buy the board you want, buy the main CPU you want, fill it with all the GPUs you want, fill it with all the extra compute that you want, that's not something that would benefit Apple to support. Now that they have Apple Silicon, now that they have a platform where the people that they know are buying Macs, they don't need to create a special configuration just for super duper video editors, because even a base level Mac Mini can do 70% of what a lot of people would have required a Mac Pro to do 10 years ago.
Does Thunderbolt 5 give these high-end users, and this is why I wish Alex were here, but does it give them enough throughput that they don't have to worry about expandability? I mean, you can use it to attach a GPU, I guess.
Well, no, not a GPU, because the Apple architecture just isn't built for it. But Thunderbolt 5 has enormous throughput, and there's multiple lanes of it on the Mac Studio that's got the Ultra chip in it. So I feel like this is more like a requiem for what a PC used to be, what a high-end PC used to be. Point. But like Apple, and for people who are like, yeah, but on the PC side, you can still do that and you can build that and all that. Apple is reaping the benefits of Apple Silicon.
There's a lot of Apple Silicon envy on the PC side. I got to tell you.
Yeah, and the side effect of that is Apple is making essentially mobile computers. Everything's integrated, and they've managed in 5 years that they've had Apple Silicon. It's been 5 years now. They have managed to build surprisingly. Remember, we were worried like, could they make a Pro system with Apple Silicon? The answer is absolutely they can. Yeah. The downside is if you have either misty watercolored memories of the way PCs were, or you're somebody who loves that build it and do all the parts and swap out parts thing. Apple has moved their platform elsewhere. And that's the bottom line is I get nostalgia for the Mac Pro. I used to have I had Power Macs for years and years and years. I don't think I ever had a Mac Pro. I think I was off the Mac Pro train at that point.
The trash can Mac, if that counts.
Yeah, I mean, it does count. It does count. But so your nostalgia is welcome, and you're wishing that Apple would do something like that is understandable. But the truth is, Apple has moved on, and the Mac Pro as it's currently constituted is completely irrelevant, which is why they didn't even update it.
Memory you could put in a studio. You can get 192 gigs of RAM into a Mac Pro.
No, I mean the Mac Studio is the highest of literally everything that's available. So it's that M3 Ultra Mac Studio, right?
Yeah.
So
M2 Ultra is the farthest the Pro went. So it can go up to 512 gigs of unified memory.
Right. So 512 and that's it. So the Mac Studio 512 gigs of memory.
Yeah.
It's SSD internal up to 16 terabytes.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a 60 core GPU and a 28 core CPU.
Yeah. So the Studio does everything you need.
It is. I mean, the M3
except for
Ultra
expansion.
Except for expansion, but even there, I would say, first off, in the Mac Pro, what expansion? Because GPUs are not compatible. So it's like, yeah, you could put hard drives in it, I guess, but really you're gonna have that whole case so that somebody can look at a case instead of an external hard drive. Like I see the argument, but you can. My argument is not that there aren't reasons. My argument is if you're Apple and you have to build a computer and you have to sell it and it costs a lot to do that, those aren't good enough reasons. Especially since I would be shocked if they sell. At this point, are they selling any Mac Pros, dozens of Mac Pros a month, if that, like to install? I think the only reason it still exists is they've got some clients out there who they committed, like, yes, we will provide you with Mac Pros for the next 5 years or whatever. And they're like, all right, I guess. But like the writing has been on the wall really since the M2 because the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro are at parity in the M2 generation. Right. And now in the M4 technically generation with the M3 Ultra, it's surpassed it. So it's over. It's over. What can you say?
Yeah. On top of that, the people who would have bought a Mac Pro for certain specific and very, very good reasons left the platform a long time ago, and they're not coming back. Once again, that's a good way of putting it. Nostalgia. That if you would like to think that, well, if we just build a machine to their needs, they will come right back. No, because they're very, very happy with what they can do and customize, like on Linux and on Windows right now. And there's no need for $4 trillion company. Apple does not need to reach out to those people for what is a small market. There was a certain amount of prestige in the past about saying, hey, we're going to create an art poster that speaks of exactly how powerful this new G5 Mac Pro, cheese grater Mac Pro is, because it is the most powerful desktop workstation you can buy. But it was a nice poster. It was a nice slogan. They're very, very proud of it. They worked very, very hard on it, but that was a long time ago. It is no longer necessary. So they're very, very wise to simply let go of ego and just let the numbers tell them. Their customers will always tell them what machines they need to design and what they need to build. Their customers in 2025 were telling them that if I'm in the Apple Store, I will take a look at your nice Mac Pro and think, wow, gosh, golly, a $12,000 computer. Isn't that nice? But I'm walking out with a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio because
you can get a Mac Studio up to $15,000 if you want to get an 8 terabyte hard drive and 512 gigs of RAM.
And I have to laugh because back when at the beginning of the first Trump administration, he had Trump and Tim Apple had Texas. One of their famous conversations in Texas about building assembling more properly Mac Pros in Texas. So if Apple wanted to continue to add to it, look what we're doing in terms of United States manufacturing, that would be the best argument from Apple's perspective to build more Mac Pros and to build them in Texas. But even that doesn't make it worth their while.
Fortunately, Donald is not paying attention to the future of the Mac Pro.
They've replaced that story with the plant in Houston where you just were, Shelley, that is building Apple bespoke Apple Silicon servers for private cloud computing.
Well, and that's what's so funny, because those aren't Mac Pros, those aren't Macs. They're using Apple Silicon. Yep. They're using it to build AI data center for Apple, but they're not 1,000 or 1,000,000 Mac Minis. It's not Mac Stadium down there.
Exactly. Although I would argue that there'll probably be more of those in existence than Mac Pros very quickly, right? Like, it's actually a higher volume product.
Much.
No, it's not. And that's it's interesting. Like we've got a lot, Twit, there are a lot of really big, and I say this in the nicest possible way, tech nerds in the Twit community who are saying like, oh, you can get these GPUs that are much more powerful than Apple's GPUs and all that. It's like, so what? Like in the end, Apple has made decisions that have benefited them greatly to integrate the GPUs deeply with their systems. And that's the path that they have walked down. And it does motivate them to have good GPU performance. But like, if the argument is Apple should make a Mac Pro so that some incredibly tiny group of people can put a GPU card, which would require them to deconstruct Apple Silicon entirely.
It's old school.
Like,
it's completely old
the
school.
more you talk about it, the less it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I find it's funny, one of the arguments that comes up sometimes about what products Apple should make is, but this product exists somewhere else. And I don't want to be mean about it, but like Apple, there are categories where Apple is not interested. And the super high-end PC where you stick a bunch of GPU cards in it, they don't care. They've moved on. Yeah. They're doing something different. And like, that could be right or wrong. You can agree or disagree. But after 5 years of Apple Silicon, they don't even have the wherewithal to build a computer with separate GPUs and separate memory, because like, that's not the game. That's asking a rock musician to play to pick up a saxophone and play some jazz. Somebody might be able to do it, but like, it doesn't make sense. Like they spent their whole life over here. That's what Apple has done with Apple Silicon. They have built this expertise. It is in this particular way a computer is made. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But this is the computer they're making now.
I suspect we'll have this conversation again next week when Alex is here. But it is an interesting change a little bit in Apple's construction when they're looking at this very low cost iPhone based MacBook, a $500 or $600 MacBook, and they're abandoning their very high end Mac Pro. Is it a shift a little bit of Apple towards consumer?
Well, they've always been consumers, consumer technology. They also see a unique opportunity, I think, in 2026 that they did not have like in 2020, 21, 22, in that they can be super competitive with a $600 or $700 laptop in a way they were not able to be 5 or 10 years ago. Part of that is Apple Silicon. Part of that is just the slow, boring, but important process of building retail channels in places like Walmart, where the people who are looking for the mid-range machines are actually living right now. There are a lot of factors there, and a lot of them are outside of control.
Let's not forget that AI, though, is driving a lot of the
but this is the point, is that M3 Ultra Mac Studio has, again, 819 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth and up to 512 gigabytes of memory. So like, there are a lot of AI workflows that you could do on device with that thing, right? Yep. And I would imagine the M5 Ultra, which Mark Gurman says is coming, will do even more. It's not that Apple isn't still trying very hard. It's not like Apple is like, you know what? It's not worth it. Let's just do the base model chip and walk away. Like, they're not doing that. They will not be able to push at the same level as a computer that is loaded with the highest end GPU cards. That's not a game they're interested in. It's a low volume game. It's not what their company is built on. I can't say this. I got to stop saying this because it's the same story over and over again. What I'm saying is they can make high-end systems that are high-end Apple Silicon systems that will have performance characteristics that will be good for certain tasks. And that's all they're interested in building at this point.
Yeah. And just one little footnote, there are some things that Apple just isn't good at. And this is one of those things that Apple just isn't good at. So sometimes Apple makes a very strategic and very, very savvy decision. Sometimes it's that, you know what, we are not a company that in any way has the sort of cultural or engineering background to make a product like that happen. Also, we have a market that is very, very, I'm not saying niche as a way of making it sound silly or insignificant. I'm saying that we have a set of customers that is not like other sets of customers. Our iPhone customers are not like other phone customers. Our laptops and desktops are not for the conventional laptop and desktop customers. Fortunately, all those other people, they have 82% of the market and a dozen different companies of great magnitude to choose from. We know our customers. We know what our customers are expecting from us. We know what they're going to line up to buy. We choose to make those things rather than say, oh, why can't we make a really, really great, legitimately useful and well-built $350 laptop? God, if only we could be Motorola and build an awesome $200 phone that can run pretty much every app that anybody would ever want to run on a phone, and also has a halfway decent camera. They're like, no, we can't do that. We don't know how. We would fail miserably at that attempt, and then we would also be Motorola would just figure out a way to make that same phone for $175 and make our work irrelevant. So let's not play that game. We know what people are coming to us to buy. Let us build the things that they're coming to us for.
Well, save your Apple wheels, your $500 Apple wheels, and you can put them on something else. I guess.
Going to be a heck of a display piece. I look forward to their prices crashing.
They are beautiful.
I mean, those put one on display.
Yeah,
maybe what someone should do is create like an adapter plate, so the people who bought those super expensive feet could put it on the bottom of Johnny Ive's $7,000 like boat lamp, and just basically have like the ultimate like Apple design flex.
I think I have at least one or two old Mac Pros, the Intel Mac Pros, sitting across from me. They're the old editor boxes back when we still used Macs for editing. And I also have a bunch of Dell Power Stations, which we don't use anymore either. Times have changed. I think you made an excellent point, Jason, that computing has changed. Yeah. But if you are doing local AIs, maybe you want CUDA, but maybe you don't need CUDA because Apple's got a lot of unified memory and a lot lower cost.
And if you do, this is the thing, it would be different if Apple was the only company that made computers.
Yeah.
But they're not. And sometimes I think people are offended, like I said, that Apple doesn't want to play in certain spaces because those spaces are near and dear to them.
My local AI machine is a Strix Halo box from AMD. That's the framework desktop. It's lovely. It's super fast. It's great.
What I'm not saying is everything Apple does is right. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is Apple made some decisions that have benefited them greatly. And that has led them down the path of Apple Silicon. The Apple Silicon Mac era is the best era in the Mac ever. And Macs, you can buy Macs with incredible performance characteristics. That said, there are certain things that they are not going to do. And if those things matter to you, I guess it's a bummer that Apple has said we're not going to go down that path. But it's a bargain that Apple made to go down this path. And I would say for 99.99% of people, it's the right decision to make, and they've benefited from it.
I'm really happy with the M4 Mini that I got here that replaced my old studio.
Right?
Yeah, it's a nice computer, and I put it in that fake Mac Pro case. So it's like a little tiny Mac Pro. That's the truth of it, is that there is a Mac Pro. It's the Mac Studio. It's just what a Mac Pro has changed. Yeah.
See, I've been hesitating as to whether to say this or not, but I do think that Apple, to some extent, and to another extent, customers themselves have trained themselves to want the best thing. And if the best thing is called the Mac Pro, that's what they want. Obviously, there are people who have more sophisticated reasons for buying a Mac Pro than that, whether they be expansion, GPUs, which we've talked about. But there is this sort of desire, this thought, wait, the Mac Studio, that isn't enough for me because it's not the best thing Apple offers. And maybe at some point, when the Mac Studio is the best thing that Apple offers, they can be satisfied with the $15,000 Mac Studio, which doesn't need wheels. And maybe that's sad for them. I don't know.
This is actually a really interesting point, which is, in the PC space, you have thousands of manufacturers trying every possible configuration. There's only one company in the whole wide world that makes Apple computers. And so it's their business, and they've looked at how many Mac Pros they've sold, and they've decided it's not a good business. And, you don't have a second company that could say, oh, we'll take up the slack there.
Well, not a good business for them. Like
for them,
again,
yeah.
Again, this
but
is
that's
one of those
their
things
right
where,
to make that decision. And I suppose there'll be some people who will be upset.
Well, also, again, philosophically, Apple, and I actually mean this in a neutral way. There are companies that can make almost everybody happy. There's companies that are like, I can make only a certain specific subset of people happy, but they'll be so happy that they'll come to me exclusively because we're creating something that's completely unique. Apple is not the sort of company that can say, if you need 1,000 computers for your corporation, we can give you 1,000 computers that will be configured for every task in every single department and this is a large enough order that we will custom configure and custom build this to your specifications. Apple is not going to be really, really super great at that. They can't target that effectively. But
and here
again,
from our Club Twit
doing things good
is a very good use for those old Mac Pros.
Yeah,
they make an excellent desktop holder. If you cut the wood just right, it fits.
Just a bench.
Cut to my living room.
Nice that's a bench, right? It's too low for a desk, isn't it?
They also make a really good like side table for your chair. Like,
is that what you use yours?
I've got a couple of G3s and G4s that are just like next to like a lot of different chairs. That's a perfect place for like your drink. On a coaster, of course, because you got that beautiful mirror finish, and also the remote, or like if you have like a muffin that you're having for breakfast. So I literally do have like 2 or 3 of these like in my living room.
I just have tables made out of wood. I got rid of my cheese grater G5 at some point. I did not think about their aftermarket use.
I don't believe yes. I have gotten all the value out of the money that I spent for that Pro yet.
And we should also say this is not Apple's announcement. This is Mark Gurman's speculation. It's possible there will be a Mac Pro next year.
I mean, it's his reporting.
Unlikely.
It's his reporting. He says that they put it on the back burner, which is not necessarily that they'll discontinue it. Look, there remains a chance, but I feel like the longer we go, Apple...
It kind of looks like it's abandoned, doesn't it?
Because they talked about doing like, and Gurman reported they were looking at like an extreme chip that would be like multiple ultras in one thing, and then you might need the cooling of but even then it just sort of doesn't make sense. Like to have a case that big, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Now, how about this? Apple in their newsroom has put out a press release about how they're 3D printing the new Apple Watch cases out of titanium. They said nobody thought titanium would be a good material, recycled material would be a good material, but we figured out how we can use it in 3D printing.
Yep.
Wow.
They use powder. They use titanium, pure titanium powder, and they say that it actually reduces the waste as well, because by 3D printing it, you don't have shavings that are coming off the larger titanium block that you shave down to the size. Instead, you 3D print it with powder. And it's not just, it's Apple Watch, and it's also the USB port on the iPhone Air is done by a 3D printing process, titanium 3D printing. To get it to fit.
It's not a 3D printer like we think of in our house, right?
I mean, kind of.
Well, it prints with metal. I mean,
yeah. $200 Creality. Get yourself a free.
It's metal and not plastic.
Yeah. And they say using the additive process of 3D printing, layer after layer gets printed until an object is as close to the final shape needed as possible, which is really, it does make a lot of sense. And it allows them to recycle titanium, which has historically not been,
and this is the kind of environmental story from Apple that I really enjoy, because it's highly specific. It's not just saying we're doing a good thing, trust us. It's saying this is the process. It's a tech nerd's environmental story, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it really does come down to like Apple's tenure, Apple's definition as a design company. I mean, this is, I don't know what planets aligned so that this year Apple decided that we're no longer content simply implying that we're a design company and that that's part of our heritage. We really want to put that front and center by messaging that right in the the pre-roll introduction video when we launch a new iPhone. We want to have a video that says that we are all about design. Design is about intent. Design is about A, B, C, and D. And this is, you could almost hear Johnny Ive, titanium. The purest titanium deposited.
And now you're wrecking it for me. I was
Titanium.
enjoying it until Johnny Ives came back.
No.
But even before the printers can start, the raw titanium needs to be atomized into a powder, a process that involves fine-tuning its oxygen content to decrease the qualities of titanium.
This is what happens
when exposed to heat.
This is what happens when you have one of these enormous companies that produces enormous numbers of products in great precision and has built up an incredible, I mean, I've said for a long time, I bet you that one of the, if not the greatest repository of knowledge about how aluminum is used outside of the aerospace industry, I guess, is Apple. Like, Apple is so good at metallurgy in so many different ways. And it leads to things like this, where because they've got the resources, because they're going to ship these products at volume, they can do this kind of research. And it doesn't, I mean, I give credit to Apple PR here, because honestly, this is one of those things that they could also just not talk about, but they want to boast about it a little bit, which is kind of cool because somebody's got patents on this, right? Somebody's
I think it's super cool. It takes them 20 hours to build the Apple Watch Ultra 3 Titanium, which is and the Series 11. Each machine features a galvanometer that houses 6 lasers, all working simultaneously to build layer after layer over 900 times for a single case. The powder is 50 microns in diameter, which is like very fine sand. When you hit it with a laser, it behaves differently if it has oxygen versus not. So we had to figure out how to keep the oxygen content low. Otherwise, it bursts into flame.
Ooh, where's that in the video? I want to see that.
Yeah.
Right.
This is wild. Now, I imagine all these machines are in Shenzhen, right? I mean, they're in China.
Probably.
Or maybe they're in Vietnam.
I mean, who knows? Yeah.
Are these off-the-shelf machines? The chat room seems to know what kind of machines these are. So maybe these are kind of stock Benishaw lasers.
Does Apple take anything off the shelf when it comes to manufacturing? Don't they like to optimize for exactly the product they're doing?
I would imagine it's a known process that has then got custom hardware to generate.
Or you buy components and you build your own machine
that
does what you need.
Or they just simply, just like with Gemini, they just basically, we would like to contract you to build us a titanium deposit machine that we don't know how to build ourselves.
Apparently, one of our regulars in the club, Eat the Oligarchs, I love his name, says he's used machines like this. He said, you load the powder from above. I've used titanium, aluminum, titanium.
Selective laser melting.
Oh, well, from Wikipedia. So that's pretty darn cool.
I like my lasers to be selective.
I want one. How much would one of these set me back? Would it be more or less than a Mac Pro?
Well, Leo's building things out of titanium.
Nobody give Leo a laser.
Those crappy 3D extrusion printed plastic things, they're so crappy. If I could build my stuff out of titanium, now I'm interested.
An essential part of our process is that we examine each fragment of titanium to select only the best ones that are proper and suitable for this application.
I want to see an ad of the rejected titaniums wandering off.
It becomes 16Es or something.
For Apple.
They show up at Ocean State job lot with like Swiss movements inside them. I would love that to happen. Building 19 would have a big bin if they were still in business of, we can't say which watch casings they are, but you can use them to store pills in. You can use them for stamps.
Once the printers are done working, the excess powder is vacuumed off the build plate in a process called rough depowdering. I think I had a nanny that did rough depowdering when I was a baby, but I might be wrong. I don't know. This is the video on the Apple website is actually pretty darn cool.
They're very proud of processes.
They should be.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
They've tagged this with environment, though. They're pushing this as an environmental solution because
I think it seems legit. And like I said, I feel like they can make the case as to why it's very cool, but also what the environmental not impact. We don't know what the actual impact is, but we know what they're doing to reduce the amount of waste, and to do the process in-house in such a way that it is as efficient, presumably as efficient as possible. I think it feels legit to me.
I'm very happy that my Apple Watch Ultra 3 is made of 100% recycled aerospace grade titanium powder.
Well, yeah, I mean their argument here, because it's a volume of these products that they're producing in this. It's not like, oh, we could do this. It's like,
no, that's what they say.
Could you make millions of them? Right. And so they say in terms of raw titanium, we are talking about more than 400 metric tons saved, and they're using half the raw material that they were using in previous processes.
Because they're not cutting it.
They're not cutting it and they're having those shavings.
I love this,
and that's cool. I mean, because that is one of the goals. I mean, it serves Apple's PR, but also like, in the end, that means you've got more of a closed loop of supply chain, which is good. Absolutely. Right? To not have to, go back to the titanium mines for more titanium.
I like Casio's approach. Like their philosophy is, if the plastic is on my wrist, it's not being choked on by baby sea turtles. It's not in the water. It's not in the air. It's called resonant.
Is there any rough depowdering involved with those Casio watches? I think not.
That's okay, Andy. The sea life will be choking on that plastic in 200 years when it's floating in the ocean.
That's right. No Casio watch ever made has disappeared. It's still there somewhere.
Meanwhile, my Series 9 working. Feels big and bulky and non-titanium compatible, and I'm sad.
I love this. Man. Makes me want to just go and roughly depowder somebody. All right, let's take a break. More to come. The Apple podcast charts are out. And man, I went down thousands and thousands, and I still didn't find us. But anyway, we'll tell you who the best podcasts, according to Apple, of 2025 are in just a moment. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Andy Ihnatko, Jason Snell. Alex has the week off, but it's great to have Shelley Brisbane from the Texas Standard with us. So I'm confused. I think of it as a newspaper. It's a radio show.
It is a public radio show, statewide public radio show. We're syndicated on about 30 public radio stations across Texas.
And what are the topics of conversation?
So we are a daily news show. So we do, news of the day. So today we had a story about how Texas universities may or may not capitulate to what the Trump administration wants in terms of regulating their content. And we also had a story about a book. And we did, what else did we do? God, I can't remember. It's been like hours and hours. But basically it's news, arts, culture, music, books, sports, little sports. We actually have an executive producer who loves the sports. So we're getting more sports on all the time. And
have you been hurt by the loss of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and defunding?
Indirectly, because our station, KUT in Austin, is our home station, and we actually had some reserves. And so I think what's scary for us is that the real hard times will probably come in a year or two, because we did so well with the fundraising that we did after CPB was dissolved, that we're kind of floating along a little bit. And I'm looking over my shoulder to see what happens in a couple of years.
Let's hope those members continue to support
Absolutely. Keep supporting your local public radio stations. Yeah. And it will come to us if you're
I donate to KQED in San Francisco because I'm a believer. And I watch it more than I watch other things. So they deserve they're a lot cheaper than YouTube TV, I can tell you that right now. Oh, man. We actually bought what did you do? How did you survive the Disney, ESPN, ABC blackout, Jason Snell? Did you do what I did? Did you actually end up subscribing to ESPN?
I switched to Fubo TV a couple months ago, and it includes ESPN. I went
because
back
it's
to
owned
Fubo.
by ABC.
Because it's owned by ABC now. Yep, that's exactly it, by Disney. So
how do you like Fubo?
I think Fubo is better if you're a sports fan, because that was where it came from. Their goal is to have really good sports content, and their multi-view is the best. So on a college football Saturday, if you're putting up like 3 or 4 games in a box and moving around between them and all that, it's really good at that. And they have access to all the 4K streams, and that's one of the things I found on YouTube is that some of the 4K streams on YouTube were just like the NBC 4K soccer feed just wasn't there. It said it was there, but it wasn't there. And I decided I was going to, for roughly the same price, I could just go to Fubo. So I'm trying that now again.
What are you going to do when F1 goes to Apple TV, though? You're going to have to...
Oh, no. Do you mean I will have to get an Apple TV subscription that I've already had since day one?
Oh, okay. Never mind. You have both. Okay. You like
Apple
Pluribus? We'll save the Pluribus conversation for later.
I have. What do you mean? Like you either subscribe to Fubo or you subscribe to Apple TV, and there's no in between.
I would think one would choose, but maybe not.
No, there's no overlap there.
You foolish man. It's on Peebo. Anyway, we were able to watch Monday Night Football last night, so that was
congratulations
on YouTube TV.
All Peebo Bryson. All day, all week.
Peebo. It's on Peebo.
The end credits version of the Beauty and the Beast theme, we got it. If he's done other music, I bet we have that too.
All right. We'll be back in a moment. Our show today brought to you by Zapier. I actually have been a Zapier fan since they started. I don't know when they started, but I signed up long ago and have been using Zapier as part of my, as everything, as my automation system. I have Zapier turn the lights down or up at sunset, and I probably use them for my Christmas lights. And of course, the most important thing Zapier does for me is my workflow for these shows. When I bookmark a story in Raindrop, it's automatically posted to my Mastodon instance. It's automatically they format it and add a line to a special spreadsheet that the editors can then use to make the rundowns. Zapier is just a time saver. I use Zapier every day without even thinking about it because it connects to over 3,000 of the tools that you already use in business. Well, now Zapier just got a heck of a lot better. It was already perfect, but now they've added AI. Zapier is how you break the AI hype cycle and put it to work across your company. It is the most connected AI orchestration platform out there. So imagine all those workflows that you already have on Zapier. Imagine just adding a little touch of AI to them. For instance, I'm going to take AI, and by the way, they support all the big models. You can ChatGPT and Anthropic, whatever you want. I think I'll use Claude and have it I'll add it to my existing workflow, and it can make a little briefing book. Take all the stories I've bookmarked, make a little briefing book, a synopsis, a summary, put that together, add that to the show notes. I mean, the sky's the limit with Zapier. With Zapier's AI orchestration platform, you bring the power of AI to any workflow. So you can do more of what matters. You can connect top models like ChatGPT and Claude to the tools your team already uses. This means you can add AI exactly where you need it, or create, a complete AI stack, AI-powered workflows, an autonomous agent, a AI-powered customer chatbot. Anything you can think of, you can orchestrate it with Zapier. This is the way AI really needs to be. This is a tool that can change everything. Zapier, you don't have to be a geek. You don't have to be a coder. It's for everybody. You don't have to be a tech expert. Teams have already automated over 300 million AI tasks using Zapier because it's easy. It's graphical. It's simple. And it works. Look at that. 364,608,630 AI tasks automated on Zapier. Now 637. Now 639. Join the millions of businesses transforming how they work with Zapier and AI. Get started for free by visiting zapier.com/MacBreak. That's ZAPIER.com/MacBreak. ZAPIER.com/MacBreak. I'm loving the Zapier. I'm loving it. Top. Now, I have to say this before, a little disclaimer before we cover this top charts of 2025 in Apple Podcasts. This is only podcast subscriptions in Apple.
Yep.
Admittedly, Apple Podcasts is probably the dominant podcast client.
Spotify is probably even bigger.
Spotify even bigger. Okay. Actually, I should ask Patrick what percentage of MacBreak Weekly listeners use Apple Podcasts. I would think it's higher than some of our other shows. Number one show, which is ironically a Spotify video podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience. Da-da-da, it says Spotify right on there. That took over number one from last year's number one, The Daily, from the New York Times. Then Mel Robbins, Crime Junkie, Dateline, Smartless, Call Her Daddy, This American Life, Huberman Lab, and The Ezra Klein Show. It's the usual subjects.
Yeah, as old timers like who've been like using podcasts since the time where we realized why it was called podcast, because it was for the iPod. Like it was fun in the early days to see that people who are just doing this for fun and they're at the top of the charts, and as opposed to who's at the top of the charts now? Well, people who are essentially like celebrity podcasters, even if they came by it by becoming podcasters 10 years ago and rising up. But it's like, okay, it's hard. Where is the next like really where is the next answer me this coming from? And I'm not sure that this is an environment in which like Helen and Ollie can basically get noticed by people outside of by word of mouth.
Yeah.
Answer Me This podcast is back, by the way. It was on Harris for a long time, and I was very, very delighted to see Helen and Ollie once again on my podcast inbox.
By the way, we are in the top 10 of technology shows, at least This Week in Tech is, which kind of surprises me, the audio version of that. Thank you, I guess. Given that we've been around, most of these shows are within the last 5 years. We've been around 20 years. I don't really expect to be.
So the Apple metrics are weird, right? Because they actually have another list that's the most followed, I guess they call it, and not subscribed to. And it's a slightly different list because Amy Poehler is high on that list. I think it's, there's an algorithm happening here too, where it's like, they're probably measuring engagement. They're measuring new subscriptions, right? Where if you've got a bunch of people who've been there for a long time, but you don't have a bunch of new people coming in, you might not be high on the chart, even if you've got a lot of listeners. I'm not sure I believe that this is like exactly a pure kind of thing. I think it's a manufactured by Apple kind of gauge of hotness. More than anything else.
It's just like the Billboard charts. It's my understanding that there's a ballistic effect.
Yes.
New subscribers count a lot more. MacBreak Weekly is 75th on the chart, right between TFTC, a Bitcoin podcast, and Me, Myself, and I from MIT's Sloan Management School. So at least we're on the top 100.
Yeah, but so Twit is number 9 in tech. That's pretty good, right?
That's pretty good. Security Now, 65. Yeah. So I'm happy enough. We're old. We've been around a long time. We don't have as many new subscribers every week.
Oh,
right?
look at that upgrade on Relay is number 52. I like it.
Nice. You're beating MacBreak Weekly. Good job.
It goes the other way. Those flip. I've seen this before, and it's like one over the other. And it's like, where will my little podcast be on this list? And there they are.
You got to make sure you go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're right. There are several lists. There's the follow list, the subscribe list. They have a best of list, which in the article I read, you actually had to click through to see what the Apple editors thought were the best podcasts, which is somewhat different than this list, but a little closer to this list than I would like. They also call out specific episodes. I guess that's a good way to get into a podcast that's top. But yeah, like Andy, I miss the sort of days of indie podcasts where you might actually, if you're a podcast geek like all of us, you might actually see somebody you know way high up on the list. And now it's celebrities and people who.
Oh yeah, we were often number one.
In their
we'd announce a new show to be number one for a while. Because
and not to denigrate those podcasts. I mean, Conan O'Brien has an amazing podcast. But it's like, okay, it's like you just like to see. I have no idea who this person is, but that seems like an interesting idea for a podcast. I'm looking forward to finding out who this person is.
Yeah.
So.
And I will also note, I read an article last week that really depressed me about the degree to which podcasts are male and white person dominated.
Yeah.
So the Annenberg School did a study, and something like 75% of podcasters are men. And in particular topics, women do true crime podcasts and art and culture podcasts, but overall, it's a very male dominated field. I believe it, but I will say that I am glad to see some women, whether they're podcasts I personally listen to or not, up here in the top 10. Well, there went a piece of hardware, but we look at it.
Wow. That was a musical tone as it went down.
Big podcast has gotten you Shelley already. It's Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan came over and did something.
Just buy one. Don't
in any case, I'm glad to see that there's a little diversity in the top 10, although still, like when I'm looking for a podcast to listen to, there are, and no offense to you gentlemen who I love to podcast.
Yeah, I can't help it that I'm a man, Shelley. I try not to be, but
yeah, I know, Leo. But there are too many dudes in podcasting in general. So anytime a woman-led podcast gets a little love, that makes me happy.
Oh, I agree with you. But I'll be honest. When I started there weren't many people at all in podcasting. So it was just, by the way, hey, we got a club member, Cruisin' Classic, who has the MacBreak Leafy shirt.
And welcome to this week's MacBreak Leafy.
And it looks like he's in the same woods you are, Andy.
I was thinking the same thing.
I think he must have run over to wherever the hell you are.
I think I need to contribute to like the ongoing success of that product by occasionally doing it, even when like my internet at home is fine.
It was awesome.
The library is fine.
We were worried, and it turned out to work quite nicely. Except there's probably a little brisk right now.
If I do it again, I'll dress a little bit more. I dressed out of anger in the moment, as opposed to taking 5 minutes to say, okay, what are the warmest things I have, and how many of them can I have on underneath my best coat?
Apple on Thursday introduced a new set of app review guidelines, which now specifically say apps must disclose and obtain permission before sharing your personal data with what they call third-party AI. In other words, not Siri, right? Not Apple AI.
Yeah. Because Apple's special.
Yeah.
Actually, they are. But
it's the same as app tracking transparency, isn't it? I mean, it's the same idea. Don't share my data with AIs. I like it.
Yeah. There was a lot of things that they changed here. They also clamped down on predatory loan apps by saying you can still like have a loan app, but you can't like have APRs that are higher than a certain extent. What else do they do? There's I have a note here. There's new stuff for that your app has to support users who want to know what kind of content your app delivers that might be age restricted, and that's certainly looking forward to like all the laws that are about to be hammered with.
That's the new trend. Yeah, Roblox just announced that you're going to have to, even if you're 8 years old, submit a video of yourself before you can use chat.
Yeah, and there's another one that was like, why I can't imagine why there wasn't a rule against this to begin with. They're basically there's a new rule that that basically clarifies that if you create a video streaming app where the logo looks like Hulu and it says that makes people think that it's Hulu, and you're trying to trick people who are looking for the Hulu app, we would rather you not do that. To the extent that we've introduced Rule 4.1C, and a couple other things like that. So interesting.
That's a problem for Poob, which does use, in fact, Hulu Green. So.
That is trademarked. I was amazed at the power of a signature color. I know that this is not a new thing, but like when I was like designing an interface for, hey, I want to link to music stores. So I'm like, should I have like the logos in there? Should I mention? It's like, no. If you have like Apple's white on black, they understand that. If you have YouTube's like white on red, they understand that. Spotify green, they understand that. Amazon orange, they understand that. It's amazing how, and I'm glad to see that there are these like new rules that says that we know that you're trying to say, oh no, it's a 4-letter streaming service, and it's green, but I mean green is just a color. Nobody owns a color, and Apple can say, we've pulled your app internationally. Have a good day.
If only there were rules mandating better color contrast, but that's just.
I'm sorry. Can you turn that on in accessibility? Because is there a way
you can, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I mean, to be honest, like we have accessibility nutrition labels now, which are entirely optional, and for a long time, those of us in the accessibility world have been advocating for some sort of at least required disclosure, if not requiring that an app be accessible if it can be made so. But color contrast is a big one, especially in the liquid glass world. We don't have to go too far down that rabbit hole, except to say sometimes it's bad.
Yes. We have managed to put off the Mark Gurman synopsis till way deep in the show. I think we deserve a gold star for that.
That's why we're a top 100 podcast, baby. Legitimacy.
The Mark Gurman rehash will now commence. Apple's iPhone overhaul will reduce its reliance on the annual fall spectacle. We kind of heard this before. This is not new. They're going to do 2 releases a year. Is that what Mark is saying?
Yeah, this is the big. It's fall pro phones and spring non-pro phones, which
Google's been doing for a while.
Yeah, and Samsung does two releases a year. And if the iPhone line is going to be 6 phones, then maybe they should do it. So the idea is next fall we're not going to get an iPhone 18. We're going to get an iPhone 18 Pro, an iPhone 18 Pro Max, and an iPhone Fold.
Oh.
But that's it. And then in the spring of the next year of 27, if you can believe that, then you'll get a regular 18, and maybe you'll get an Air and an 18e. But the idea there is that they're gonna split, and I think it's smart because if you've got that many phones and everybody wants to know what the new iPhone is, doing it twice a year instead of once a year, it lets you tell your story more. It lets you advertise, sort of spread your advertising out. Apple is still kind of going by the playbook of when they had one or two phones, and they don't now. They have a whole product line. So following the Samsung model makes sense to me.
Yeah. It makes sense in manufacturing, makes sense in marketing.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things Gurman said.
Results.
Is that part of this, and we don't think about this. I mean, as actually those of us who cover Apple do think about this in the sense that it's so much work. In September, and I'm like, guys, can you spread it out? I said back when I was the editor of Macworld, we would really like one product release every month to put on our cover, please. Yes. And they would not listen to us, right? So
wonder why.
So to do this, to spread it out, it also is like getting the OS and the new OS that comes out in the fall and testing it on every new model. Like, okay, let's reduce the number of new models. Getting all of those phone models into production at the same time in the factories, it's a lot. So if they can do like half of them for that and then half of them the other part, you get this really nice kind of like every 6 months is a better pattern than every year, I think, to spread out the load for the people who work on this stuff and manufacture it and all those aspects. People who design it, like they're hitting all those milestones simultaneously for like 4 different phones. It's a lot. Like maybe stagger it. It makes sense.
I actually think it'll be interesting for marketing in Apple stores, carrier stores, anywhere you buy an iPhone, because up to now, to the extent that this was a conversation, people would say, well, September or October is when the new iPhones are going to be available, so wait till then. But now it's every 6 months. And you go, well, if you wait 3 months, there might be a new Pro phone, but right now there's a brand new non-Pro phone, and it gives a better or more of a story to tell that isn't so much about linear product line, but hey, here's something new that's coming from Apple. Maybe you want to hold on to it for it, or maybe you don't. It'll be interesting to see how it affects the laggard products, which I'm a big fan of Apple having, we talked about that earlier, Apple having left laggard products on the price list to make the product line even broader. It'll be interesting to see how that's managed and to what extent that continues after this shift.
Yeah, it's also, I think, you talk about who buys these products. And I think the truth is, in the fall especially, the people who are buying, who are like, oh boy, new iPhone, I can't wait. Those are people who are buying like the Pro phones, because those are the nerdier people. And I'm going to do a plug here. Shelley did a great story on 6 Colors, and we had lots of charts that was about like comparing her coworkers at the radio show to the people who subscribe to 6 Colors in their iPhone buying patterns. And they are different, and people hold on to them longer. Regular people, like the regular people Shelley works with. So I wonder if it's easy to split this into 2, because the people who know and care are going to know that in the fall there are Pro phones and they're going to buy them. And the people who don't care so much and just kind of go into the Apple store when they need a phone aren't going to really care if it's a 17 or an 18, and then at some point in the spring it'll be an 18 instead of a 17. But like, really the point is this the current iPhone? I would like to buy it, please. And they don't care so much about, is it, I can't believe this phone's been out 6 months, I should not buy it. I think that there's a lot less concern about that for casual buyers.
100%.
Yep.
Gurman also took an opportunity to take a shot at the information, which of late has competed with him a little bit, getting the scoops. The information, he says, reported a second-generation iPhone Air had been postponed from next fall to 2027. Well, from what I've heard, it hadn't actually been earmarked for next year. That's why they named it the iPhone Air.
Yeah. Yeah, he actually reported, this is funny, he reported that it was going to go in the spring before the information reported that it had been delayed out of next year. Like, Gurman had already reported that it wasn't going to ship next fall because he said it's going to ship in the following spring. And then the information comes up and says, oh, no, it's not. I like, if I were Mark Gurman, I'd be a little offended too, that like they didn't, like, they were reporting this as if they were breaking news and they seemingly had not even read his report about it. I don't know. So he's like, no. That's not what it is.
I knew that. I knew it all along.
He said it's been, at least for a while, they may have discussed releasing it in the fall, but he said for a while it's been on the spring 27 agenda for Apple. That was not really.
It's still not clear how well the Air is selling, right? I mean, there's kind of dispute over this.
Yeah, Gurman says that the target is like 7 or 8%, or that's what the fourth phone did in the past. I've heard through the grapevine from some sources that, you know, when you look at the statistics of what phones are using apps and stuff like that the numbers are small for the Air. It's whatever, 4 or 5%, something like that. But that's not surprising. I mean, It's not a mainstream phone. The Pro and the Pro Max and the 17 are the mainstream phones. This is the outlier. And when you sell 6 phones, they're not all going to be mainstream phones. So I think the question is Apple a little disappointed? I think they probably are, because there was a report that they reduced the number that they're making, which means that it probably undershot their projections. But we'll see how it does over time too, because I do think that phone is more likely to pick up buyers over time who are more casual, who see it and go, oh, that's really cool, I want that, in a way that maybe the hardcore, give me another Pro Max people are not going to look twice at some phone like that.
I totally agree. Remember when the iPhone 6 was only marginally thicker than the iPhone Air, and at that time Apple decided that nope, this is not the special super thin version of it, this is just the version that we want to make, and we are establishing this as the mainstream phone with our expectations that's going to sell as well or better than any previous mainstream iPhone we've ever made. This is clearly this is something that it was a good time for us to build this, at least partly because we need to have technologies and experience in manufacturing super thin panels backed by batteries, just in case we actually do want to do a folding iPhone next year. So this seems like a good way to capitalize on a lot of the investments we've been making in flat battery technology and assembly technology. So yeah, if they had decided that this was going to be a phone that everybody would want to have, they would have declared it to be, this is the new iPhone 7. Yes, it's thin. You notice that, hey.
I hope they stick with it though, because I like the design, and I am not like I know Jason is somebody who is an advocate for a whole ton of colors just for the sake of having them, but it seems like the iPhone Air would be a good opportunity to do some things like add additional colors, because it's the cool factor that's going to sell those phones in the store more so than the features themselves. And I think if it's going to have longevity, the idea that you could get it in a whole bunch of colors, or there would be some other sort of wow factor feature that's more about aesthetics than about actual tech, seems like it would be a big help for that product.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's absolutely that makes so much sense, because I think that Apple is, again, they're a design company and they're really good at it. They're good at making a highly desirable object that you just want to own. So I'm glad that they're seeing an opportunity or potential and saying, what if we made a phone that is not going to have the best specs of the entire product line? It is not going to be our flagship in any way, shape, or form, but we've got some ideas on how we can exploit some brand new technologies that have been happening for manufacturing. We have some ideas that for the opportunities that Apple Silicon has in terms of we don't actually need a super thick battery anymore. We don't have to necessarily worry about heat dissipation for certain levels of performance anymore. Can we do something that takes advantage of all of that and creates, I don't want to call it a statement phone, but something for people who they would be perfectly fine with a $500 commodity smartphone, but they would much rather spend a lot more money on something with a emphatic amount of style and coolness about it. You deal with this device how many times a day? Way too many times a day. And it's the cigarette case of what cigarette cases used to be in the 1920s and 1930s. I want to go to Tiffany's and have find a cigarette case that I'm going to enjoy interacting with several times a day. Only the difference here is that this is killing your brain instead of your lungs. But still, the principle holds true.
One good point of information, according to an analyst, Counterpoint research firm, the iPhone is doing very well in China. 1 out of 4 smartphones sold in China last month were iPhones. Sales jumped 37% year over year. The iPhone's doing very well. iPhone 17, we don't know if it's I guess it's not the Air, but it's doing very well in China. So that's good. Tim will be happy to report that next quarter.
Yeah, especially because that used to be like one of the big things that they wanted to mention in every single analyst call about how they're doing in China. Analysts used to ask questions about it. Yeah, we noticed that year over year, the growth is pretty much flat. The growth of the entire market in China was X, and your growth was actually much less than X. And so that's clearly a focus. Again, not only an opportunity that they needed to pursue, but also what was acknowledged as a problem. That there must be reasons why we're not selling in that country. I'm not knowledgeable enough about that market to understand, oh, well, obviously it's because they did this and they took advantage of these subsidies and they just all this no. But it could be as simple as they created a phone that just everybody wants. Sometimes that's how you become successful with a specific product over others. At the right phone at the right time in the right market had the right amount of money to spend on it. But I'm glad to see that this is good news.
New data from Ookla, the owners of Speedtest. The Wi-Fi speeds are much faster on the iPhone 17, and they credit, or at least 9 to 5 Mac credits, the new N1 chip. That's interesting. This is an Apple custom chip that I presume replaced a Qualcomm chip. They've got the new modem as well. So overall, average download and upload speeds on iPhones with the N1 were about 40% higher than the iPhone 16. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
417 megabits per second on average on Wi-Fi.
Think how badly they couldn't gamble on this. Like, imagine the one thing that everybody would make the next iPhone into a flop is if they decided, hey, we know more than everyone else. We're going to make our own Wi-Fi chip. We're going to make our own cellular modem. And if people notice that, wow, my Wi-Fi performance suddenly stinks, or wow, my connectivity to Verizon in my area now is suddenly absolutely terrible. I regret having bought this. I'm returning it. I'm going to consider other options. So the fact that they stuck the landing on the N1 is maybe just as significant as any other piece of Apple Silicon news that's come out in the past 5 years.
I wonder if they'll be able to market that at some point. Feels like it's too early. You've got one study, but is it the kind of thing where they can say, well, you're going to get better Wi-Fi speeds if you buy a new iPhone?
I wonder if it's at this point, it's still a thing of this is their ability to say, wow, we've made this twice as powerful as last year's one, but you still get the same battery life. Wow, it's actually a little bit lighter than last year's phone, but you still get the same battery life and the same performance. Sometimes they don't have to actually call out that we've got this new technology. It's like, hey, we have never downgraded or degraded your performance in any way, shape, or form. At minimum, we have given you the same performance and the same expectations each and every year, and that we'll continue to exceed them in certain ways where and how we can.
What is interesting is that they did not put the new C1X in the iPhone 17 and 17 Pro. I think it's still using the Qualcomm modems.
Yep.
But they did put it in the Air. So what I'd love to see is some comparisons to cellular speeds on the Air versus the 17. I haven't seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's going pretty well, but they were hedging their bets there. So
nobody's complained about the speeds on the 7.
Oh, certainly not. No, I did a real quick test on the iPad, the M5 iPad between you
went in your backyard, right?
In my backyard, and the answer was that I think I got faster, slightly slower down, but way faster up, and it made a connection on Verizon that nobody makes a connection on Verizon in my backyard, and it made a connection even though it was one bar. So like it was different is the answer, but like that's the challenge with any of these tests. The nice thing about Ookla is that they're probably testing under lots and lots and lots of conditions just because of the volume of people using speed test. But a modem's characteristics, like you may get an incredibly fast modem that's brittle, right? Like incredibly fast modem, it maxes out in a great environment, and in a bad environment, it falls off the ledge and is a disaster. And you might get another one that's slower but more resilient. And I don't know whether it sounds like the C1 and C1X are pretty good. Yeah. But which was the fear. I think Apple's goal for Generation 1 was don't mess it up. Have it work, have it be functional. Don't have people returning products because the cellular doesn't work. Now, step 2 is put it in the iPhone Pro and see what happens. So I think this was I haven't seen anybody who would suggest that Apple isn't on the path to doing a C2 essentially and replacing Qualcomm in all their phones, and that it'll be fine. But what it may still be is different, right? Like just because these phones are doing different things in different environments, and it's not a straight up speed test like a CPU test, because it depends on where you are and what frequencies you're in and all of that stuff. If you're in my backyard and it's a disaster back there.
You may remember during the Apple product launch a couple of months ago, when Apple introduced the iPhone Air, the engineer, the designer that introduced it, Abdur Chowdhury, featured prominently on the launch video. Not at Apple anymore. He's taken a job at an unnamed AI company. I don't know if that makes any difference or not, but he is an industrial designer who left iPhone, according to Mark Gurman. Mark loves doing these stories about AI people leaving the company. This is kind of a funny one because he's a designer, not an AI guy, but he did go to an AI company. I wonder if it's open AI, because remember Johnny Ives working there, working on some sort of product. Does it matter? We don't know.
It's interesting. He did point out, Mark Gurman did point out that it's not as though this person was left because of fallout, because of underperforming iPhone 17, iPhone Air, or whatever like that.
The Air is gorgeous. I don't think anybody would disagree that the industrial design on the Air is impressive.
Well, and for all we know, he might have left because a project was successfully completed and he felt like he could go on to something else.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley. See, a cooler head prevails.
Only occasionally.
You are the saucer that cools the cup. Let's take...
That's right. Shelley, thank you for your pleasant take. Sea of hot takes. It is good to get a pleasant, reasonable take for once.
I mean, I'm saving up for when I have a really hot take that I
hot take coming.
Yeah. Save it for the real hot take. Yeah.
My Mac Pro was the hot take for today, I think.
Let us take a break and come back with more hot takes and cold takes and cool takes. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with Shelley Brisbane from the Texas Standard. Great. Always great to have you on, Shelley. I'm thrilled we could get you here. She's filling in for Alex Lindsay, who may or may not be back last week. He's been working hard. He's been getting a lot of jobs. Andy Anatko is also here. I'm sorry, Andy, but your website was brought down by Cloudflare this morning.
Yeah, I noticed that because I was trying to post a whole bunch of stuff in anticipation of something.
I got up and this has become a new tradition. First it was AWS, then it was Microsoft Azure. Now it's Cloudflare. Bunch of sites not working in the morning because Cloudflare was down for a couple of hours. Actually, it's pretty serious.
You're absolutely right. Because sometimes now it's like when fates befall us in a negative way. Maybe it's not God that hates us. Maybe it's Cloudflare that hates us. It's the cloud.
Yes.
So when AWS went down, it really wreaked havoc with us at the radio show because you don't realize how many things that use AWS you're actually relying on. But none of us noticed Cloudflare. The first thing we read about being down was X, and all of us were like, "Oh, we don't do that." So
besides Anako.com during Fireball, maybe you've heard of them. That also went down.
I've heard of them. Yes.
A few other Mac Stories was down. I know because I do my beat check and I was up early and I got a warning from Tapestry and we couldn't connect with all these sites. I thought, what? That's something's odd.
Ironically, I set up Cloudflare because, hey, I don't want this thing coming down.
You don't want to be DDoSed?
I want.
Well, what's the? I can't remember the name of the site that checks whether things are up or down. That was down.
You know what? Down Detector was also down.
That's it. Yes, Down Detector was down. Thank you.
It was behind Cloudflare too.
Maybe that should be a feature of Safari and Chrome. Like when it realizes what's happening, it just puts, instead of the usual internet connectivity or whatever could not resolve, just says, guess what, everybody, you get a snow day. You get an internet-free snow day. Put on your snowsuit. Go outside.
I mean, when AWS was down, we use a tool called Rundown Creator to run the show. We can't do we can do the show without Rundown Creator, but it's really like having your hands tied behind your back. And there was about 45 minutes that day where we were just like, I don't know what we're doing. Nobody does.
Wow.
Just keep cutting tape.
Wow.
But we don't know how long anything is.
Yeah. Also here, Jason Snell from sixcolors.com and the Upgrade podcast this week from London.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Love it.
The 52nd most popular podcast in the technology sector.
I guess today.
Our show today brought to you by Framer. Now, let's talk about websites. If you're still jumping between tools to update your website, you need to know about Framer. Framer unifies design, CMS, and publishing on a single canvas. So no more handoff from one tool to another. It's all there, no hassle, everything you need to design and publish all in one place. Framer already built the fastest way to publish beautiful production-ready websites, and it's now redefining how we design for the web. With the recent launch of Design Pages, a free canvas-based design tool, Framer's more than a site builder. It's a true all-in-one design platform. From social assets to campaign visuals, to vectors and icons, all the way to a live site, Framer is where ideas go live, start to finish. And here's the best part. Framer is free. It's a free, yes, free, full-featured design tool. Think unlimited projects, free. Unlimited pages, free. Unlimited collaborators, free. Everything you need, vectors, 3D transforms, gradients, wireframes, everything you need to design, totally free. And now you got to check this out. Framer's your entire workflow in one place. No more Figma imports, no messy HTML. It's faster, it's cleaner, it's more efficient. And you can design more than websites. It lets you create social assets, campaign visuals, icons, site resources, all inside the Framer tool. No switching back and forth. Framer stands above the others because it's not just a site builder. Framer is a true design tool that also publishes professional production-ready sites. If you're ready to design, iterate, and publish all in one tool, start creating for free at framer.com/design. And use the code MacBreak for a free month of Framer Pro. That's framer.com/design and use the code MacBreak. Framer.com/design, promo code MacBreak. Rules and restrictions may apply. Thank you, Framer, for supporting MacBreak Weekly. 3 episodes in, Pluribus. What do we think?
I love it.
Love it. It's really good, isn't it?
I love it.
It's another Severance.
Maybe. We'll see if it takes public consciousness. It is I think a harder watch than Severance because it's more stylized and a little weirder.
Yeah,
a little weirder than Severance,
Gilligan,
folks.
If you love Breaking Bad, if you love Better Call Saul, man. Yeah.
Again, it gets really intense. Not oh my god, there are zombies and they got axes and flamethrowers and they don't have a defense against the zombies. It's more like these subtle things where even like if you could imagine a situation that is absolutely mundane in which, oh my god, if I were in that situation, I would be despairing and the panic of not knowing what to do and having to figure out something.
See, I think it's telling how
really
people would react. Ray S. Seahorn is clearly upset. I think there are others in that world who are taking advantage of it. I think I would be more like the other guys saying, "Hey."
I'll say is that I'm sorry, just very quickly. The only thing they were very very cagey about what the subject material of this was about. The log line was everybody a virus or something.
And we're not going to spoil it, right?
Right, the log line was the world's unhappiest person tries to make the rest of the world who's happy unhappy,
and that was
something like that.
Basically,
yes.
like this, and that would make me. I had lots of faith in the creators, but like what could have been like, okay, so it's kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, only like sort of as a drama, where it's like, oh well, gosh, why is this one person always so like morose, and when everybody's so down, when everybody's so upbeat, and it's like, no, that was by the end of the first half hour, the first episode. Like, no, it's not that at all.
No, and I think the reason that it may not be as broadly popular as something like Severance is that I'm not. First off, Severance had kind of this mystery, and I'm sure there are facts to be revealed by Pluribus. We're being very good at dancing around what it's actually about. But I will say this: I think Yeah, you're right, Leo. I think a lot of us would say, well, in this situation, why would I not just live like the guy who on Air Force One? I'll just put it that way. And the answer is, it's kind of a show about grief. And I think that the grief is a thing that motivates the main character. And I think Vince Gilligan is exploring some really interesting kind of heavy concepts about not only about grief, but about identity, about what's important, the individual or the collective. And I don't know, maybe it'll be a smash hit like Severance. Maybe it will be one of those shows that most people don't get into, but then the TV critics at the end of the year say, yeah, but that's the best show. And I'm leaning toward the latter. I'm not sure this is as much of a crowd pleaser, but I'll tell you, I've been thinking about it every day since I watched it.
Yeah.
Me too. It really is. It's philosophically very interesting.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am taking great pains to pronounce it Rhea Seahorn.
Okay.
Because I pronounced it Rhea last time, and I got an email from Dennis Boutsikaris, who worked with her. He was one of the lawyers.
Dennis Boutsikaris. Oh my God.
You know who he is.
He sent my website 20 years ago mean emails because we made fun of him. What a jerk that guy is.
Do not make fun of him.
But Rhea. Okay, good. Lesson learned. Rhea.
It's Rhea, and he said, "Don't ask me how I know." And he knows because he works with her in Better Call Saul. He's a well-known character actor who I think I might have seen on Broadway back when he was in Amadeus many, many years ago. Anyway, thank you, Dennis, for correcting us. We're going to say Rhea because she deserves a lot of respect. She is great in this show.
Imagine working on a production as bold and as big as Better Call Saul, and even amongst that ensemble cast, making such an impression upon the creator that he decides, you know what, next one I do, you're going to be at the very center of it.
Yeah,
because you can
You're
carry
so good.
Absolutely everything.
By the way, is perfect for Carol Sturka. Is a perfect person to play that role, and we're not going to say why, but she just really is very, very good. And anyway, Shelley, you haven't said a word. You haven't seen it?
I have not. No, I have scrolled by a number of very positive reviews, though. So I know that the zeitgeist, or at least the zeitgeist in my RSS feed, seems to love it. So
yeah, we're not ruining it for you. But the reason we mentioned, of course, it's an Apple TV Plus show, and Apple TV seems to be firing on all cylinders lately. They have been making better and better stuff. I was not a fan of the morning show, the early attempts. Schmigadoon was interesting.
I like Schmigadoon. I'll say good things about Schmigadoon.
I love musical theater, so I liked it, but it was a little cloying. But I think they're with Slow Horses, Last Frontier down Cemetery Road, and now Pluribus. They are firing on all cylinders. I think they're really doing a good job. Apparently, Apple's also looking at a sequel for F1 the movie. Joseph Kaczynski, the director, says Apple's interested. Brad Pitt would come back. It would be F2. I don't know what would you call it.
No, isn't that kind of a isn't that the sort of movie that when they made it, if it was successful at all, there was clearly going to be a sequel?
I didn't see it, so I'm waiting until December 12th when I can watch it for free.
It's a big budget movie that did really well, and it's 2025. Of course, there's a sequel.
Yes, they have to. I mean, they're running out of stuff to make movies. Apparently there's no new ideas. Tim Cook said it's when he was asked at the Emmys, he told Variety, it's definitely something that's being talked about. We're so proud of it. And the director said, I'd love to see what other adventures Sonny Hayes has in his future. So
we had a long conversation about it in Cupertino, and we decided that we like making lots of money.
Yes.
We like attracting prestige operations.
Plus, we've bought the rights to F1 broadcasting in the U.S. Coincidentally, and it might help us boost ratings a little bit as well.
I mean, we kicked the ball back and forth is what we did. You know,
yes,
we're an open campus. We were open.
We ran it down the track to see what would happen.
We decided, hey, what if this big bag of money that's on the table that we're free to take, what if we would actually take my big bag of money?
Yeah.
Just spitballing here.
Just, it's a thought. It's an idea. I'm sad to report, I don't know if you played any of the Mac ports of Baldur's Gate or Fallout. But the game designer, the programmer, brilliant programmer who worked on those for Interplay, she did the famous 3DO port of Doom in just a few weeks. She did the Macintosh versions of Wolfenstein 3D and Icewind Dale. Rebecca Heinemann passed away at a very young age of 62 of cancer. So legendary game designer, programmer. She got her start as one of the first arcade champions at Space Invaders in the 80s.
That's
Rebecca
pedigree.
Heinemann. Yeah. Her wife had just passed last year, so it's kind of a double tragedy. But she you can thank her because she really made it possible for us to play some of these big titles on a Mac back when that was unheard of. And it was because she was so brilliant. One of the founders of Interplay, Bard's Tale 1 and 3, Wasteland, dead at the age of, I think, 62. Sorry to say. All right, I'd like to take a little bit of a break. And if you would, my friends, prepare your picks of the week. We can do those when we come back. Shelley, I don't know. Do you want to do a pick of the week this week?
Sure, I got a pick.
All right. And I don't like to make our guests work, but
well,
okay.
It's funny because I had one pick and then my iPad fell off of it, and so I have another pick.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Was that sound? The gong. Oh my God.
I'll share it with you when we do our picks.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh my God.
Maybe not such a pick.
Maybe not.
That's got to be the first live pick failure on the show.
I know, and I hope you don't get letters from people who make this thing.
That's hysterical. All right, more with Shelley Brisbane, Andy Anako, and Jason Snell in just a moment. Our show today quite literally brought to you by Cashfly. You know, when I hear about Amazon going down or, troubles over Cloudflare, I just think I don't ever have to worry about this. I have Cashfly for over 20 years. Cashfly has held a track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery, serving over 5,000 companies in over 80 countries. And because you've heard me say it time and time again, bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com/twit. We've been using Cashfly practically since the beginning. I was very naive when I started Twit. I thought, we'll just put the podcast up on a website. People can download them. No, it doesn't work quite that way. You need a content delivery network. We went everywhere. We were doing BitTorrent for a while, begging people to seed copies of the show. Then it was brought, do you remember it was brought to you by AOL Radio? There was such a thing that we're getting bandwidth from them. But thank goodness Matt Levine of Cashfly came to us. This probably was about 2008, 2009, and said, Leo, let us help. And we have, there has never been a day where I haven't thanked Matt and Cashfly because it just works. For over a decade, we've been using Cashfly. We love their lag-free video loading, the hyper-fast downloads, the friction-free site interactions. When you go to our website and you're watching there, listening to the video, that's all coming to you from Cashfly. When you subscribe to the podcast, that's coming to you from Cashfly. Join companies like Adobe, Microsoft, LG, the NFL, and many more that rely on Cashfly. Most CDN providers will hold you back. You'll have to work around their rules. With Cashfly, you get a tailored solution and performance-obsessed partners. I can't remember a time Cashfly has not performed perfectly for us. I think they've never been down as far as I remember. Your CDN, our CDN, becomes our competitive advantage. Cashfly's proof is in the petabytes, as they say. We deliver more than 2 petabytes a month over Cashfly. Events stream smoothly to millions of concurrent users with less than 1 second latency. Online games start 70% faster, scale instantly, and play without lag. Software downloads flawlessly during releases, patches, and updates. And HD video plays on demand with ultra-fast sub-second start on every device. And podcasts reach global audiences at record speed at any scale. Cashfly delivers rich media content up to 158% faster than other major CDNs and allows you to shield your site content in their cloud, ensuring a 100% cache hit ratio. Also very important to us, Cashfly let us design our own terms when we came to them. You'll never pay for service overlap again. They've got flexible month-to-month billing for as long as you need it, then discounts for fixed terms once you're happy. You'll do the same. Design your own contract when you switch to Cashfly. It's like gaining an extension of your team. And believe me, trust me, when I say, when your entire business model depends, as ours does, on delivering massive content, you cannot afford to go alone. You can count on personalized help anytime from a tenured expert who gets it, engineer to engineer, 24/7. Cashfly is part of our team. Learn how you can get your first month free at cashfly.com/twit. That's CACHEFLY.com/twit. Thank you, Cashfly. Thank you. Pick of the week time. Andy and Akko, why don't you kick things off?
One of my favorite picks of the year. Apple TV, of course, has all the rights to all the classic Peanut specials. Yes, exactly. So this is the weekend that you can watch a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving for free without having access to Apple TV. Go through the app. I think it will.
I think it's there. Yeah. In fact, it's on the front page. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's I would have been very, very upset with Apple if they decided that this is the only you got to pay up in order to see, again, part of our cultural heritage. So I'm still upset that it's not available just simply on free TV. I'm still a little bit upset that you can't just simply go to like the Google Play Store and buy it if you want to own it. It's like, no, it's own lock, stock, and barrel. But yeah, it's still something that has to happen like each and every year.
And no spoilers. I won't tell you whether Lucy pulls the football from Charlie Brown again this year. I watched it last night. I just love it. It's nostalgia.
At some point, you have to start blaming Charlie Brown, I think. It's never a good thing, but
he talks himself into it each time. It's like, well, she wouldn't do this. It's a holiday tradition.
Yeah, exactly. But
Charlie.
She's said a lot of things about a lot of subjects that you shouldn't have fallen for before, and this is one of the ones she does not just once a year.
So they do this. Do they do a Great Pumpkin every Halloween? Make it available to?
Yeah, the holy trilogy of peanut specials: Thanksgiving, Halloween, and Christmas. They do a free weekend, and they announce it well in advance. I think this week it's happening. This year is happening like a week earlier. I think they normally do it like close to Thanksgiving as possible. Right. But I think you kind of want to see it before Thanksgiving and not after Thanksgiving.
I remember that right around Thanksgiving, you could also see The Wizard of Oz with Danny Kaye introducing it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I can't be like a Gen X like old timer and say, oh, life was different back then. But there were times where it's like, it's New Year's Eve. Guess what's happening? We are turning on Channel 38 and we're watching the Stooge-a-thon.
Yeah,
we're not. Yeah, and so now,
this is when you had to in order. This is how TV worked.
But also you wanted to, because come on, it's the Stooge-a-thon. It's New Year's Eve. What else are you going to do? Even if you're at a party, like, guess what? It's a watch party of the Stooge-a-thon. There's going to be alcohol. There's going to be champagne at midnight.
That somehow, and I don't know how this happened, you gave me the Czechoslovakian or the Czech Republic link to Apple TV.
Sorry about that.
But thanks to that, I know that it's 199,000 Czech kroners or whatever it is they use in Czech for Apple TV. Plus 199. No, wait a minute. The comma's in a weird place. It's 100. Maybe it's 19,900 CZKs.
I apologize. I was with the.
What were you doing in Czechoslovakia?
It's just Czechia now. The Slovaks went somewhere else.
Is it
Czech Republic or Czechia? What?
It's Czechia.
I was dealing with a Cloudflare downage. I had my hands full of lots of stuff this morning. I apologize. I copied and pasted without really checking out to see what is.
It's the Czech koruna.
Koruna.
The koruna. Oh, you know this? Yeah.
I looked it up before you. That's all.
Oh, okay. The Czech koruna. When I was a kid, went to Czechoslovakia in 1967 when it was still Czechoslovakia, and I have a very fond memory of it. The Czech Republic now. Well, now we know you can see Charlie Brown in the Czech Republic for only 199 whatever.
Before I close, we move on to somebody else. I will notice that Hostess did buy the intellectual property of Dolly Madison. So if you want to like have the snack cake, the zingers, which one was back on ABC TV during Gen X time period, you can actually do that. It's no longer
they
a
were the
product.
Traditional sponsor of.
Exactly.
Yes.
We in New England we used to say, "Wow, I wonder what a Dolly Madison zinger would taste like." Someday
you couldn't buy them in New England?
I'll know the world. No, we did not have. This was New England is and was a Hostess stronghold.
You're right. I never had Dolly Madison when I was a kid. Come to think of it, you're absolutely right. I had Hostess.
Yep.
Yeah. In fact, there was a Hostess plant in Providence.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember the Wonder Bread factory as well. Always smelled wonderful.
They also used to have a snack cake called the Google.
Well, there you go.
Honestly, that's absolutely true.
There you go, the Google. Ms. Shelley Brisbane, how about your pick of the week?
All right, so this is probably accident, and I should have put it in the document. I'm just realizing now, but this is accidentally probably the least expensive pick you've ever had on MacBreak Weekly. Visual aids. It is an iPod. It's a lanyard for AirPods Pro. What's special about a lanyard for AirPods Pro, you may ask? It is from Cobb, COBB, and it is a lanyard that you stick each AirPod in, and then it's magnetized so that you can put it around the back of your neck. It's perfect for being on a plane, because the worst thing I can think of is to drop an AirPod on the plane. And so you put this thing around your neck and you magnetize them together. You put your little AirPods in the hole.
Oh, I got to get this.
It's so good.
I have a lanyard for the case. I thought you were talking about the case.
Colors.
This goes right on the AirPods themselves.
Exactly. You just stick them in little holes. And it comes in colors.
And can you still put them in your ear with this thing on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can.
Doesn't interfere with that?
No.
Do you have pink?
I don't
Purple?
personally. I have blue, but
they come in many colors.
Yeah.
I might get pink, because you know why? I get everything pink. That way nobody's going to steal it.
There you go.
I love that. Because when I'm going my walks, it's like sometimes you do need to like remove just one earbud so you can talk to a clerk that you're purchasing,
and then lose it.
Yes, and then you put and something and the ability to simply this is one of the reasons why I kind of like wired earbuds, because when I'm not using them, I can just sort of just wear them like an attractive scarf, very very thin and very insulating scarf.
Yeah, I used to carry a pair of wired earbuds just for that reason, and now I have this thing. Can I tell a Charlie Brown Christmas TV story though, real quick?
Please.
Yes. So when I was a kid, I was probably 9 or 10, something like that. I was in a school string ensemble. Wasn't quite an orchestra. There were probably about 10 of us. And we had a gig on local television. And it was for a kids show that was pre-taped, but it was going to be played on Saturday morning. So one night before Christmas, we went down to the television station to record our bit. It was the night that Charlie Brown Christmas was on. And because we were in a TV studio, the monitors were showing what was live on television, but they wouldn't turn the sound up. And we were playing. And I was so mad because I kept looking over this way, trying to grok Charlie Brown Christmas while I was supposed to be playing my violin on television.
Yeah. That's another thing younger generations don't understand, that if you missed your shot at watching the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving or Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, that was it for the year.
You're waiting a year.
You missed your slot.
No VCR back in that day.
That's people don't understand how hard it was back in the 90s. Or whatever, 80s.
A little earlier than that.
70s.
I believe that when DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince wrote Parents Just Don't Understand, I think they were tapping into that memory of, I don't care if it is my aunt's birthday tonight. I have to stay home and watch a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving.
It really has.
Don't understand.
This on-demand world has changed so much, and it's changed rapidly, because first you had VCRs, and then you had DVRs, and now you could just watch anything you want, streaming whenever you want it. It really has completely shifted our consciousness. I don't know if it's for the better.
I will say that there was I missed the Star Wars Christmas special, and I was upset about it for a long time
until you saw it.
Until I learned about the true horrors. I realized that I was not ready at age 7 or whatever to see something that horrible with characters I liked so much.
It would have ruined you, my friend. Ruined you. Cobb. I'm going to get some magnetic cobs for my AirPod pods. I think that's brilliant. But then, wait a minute. You can't put them in the charger anymore.
You can't have everything, Leo. Come on. You can wear them.
I have to
you
choose.
can hang them around your neck, but you can't charge them. No.
That's not good. So you want to tell us what it was that fell off your... Do you want to tell us what it was that fell off your desk?
I bought this. I really like to use an iPad as a teleprompter or as a note keeper. And the way it's easiest for me to do is to mount it on some sort of stand. And right now, the easiest thing for me to do is I have a tall microphone stand. It's like a 5-foot tall microphone stand. And I bought this clip that is very durable, sturdy plastic, or so I thought, that hangs off of the microphone stand. And what happened was the iPad just fell out of the clip. And I'm going to assume that it is not a human error of my own because it's been sitting there for an hour and a half, but all of a sudden it just decided to fall. But it's a great way for me to use a teleprompter or notes or whatever without having to, stare at a screen over here. So
I'm glad you didn't make it your pick because I have purchased every iPad stand that's been mentioned on this show. And I have a whole junkyard of iPad stands littered over there.
I bought crummy ones too. I really like this one because it's sturdily built. I mean, it's not rubberized plastic, so it's not going to get tacky. It's not weird metal. It feels like a very rugged piece of kit, and I'm going to keep it. I'm just going to be more careful about how I put the iPad in it.
Do you want to mention the manufacturer?
It's an iClip.
iClip. Oh yeah, I have iClips. Yeah. All right, Jason Snell, I don't know why I kept you for last because you've got 4 picks.
Well, it's a conceptual pick. So Bartender has for many years been the standard at organizing your menu bar so that you have like 80 icons up there and that's too many and you want to hide most of them most of the time because they're distracting. And the problem is Bartender got sold. The early reviews of Bartender 6, the first major version under the new owners, are that it's kind of hinky. I haven't tried it myself, but I didn't love how they handled the sale transfer. And now people are saying, especially on Tahoe, it doesn't really work very well. And so this is my public service to you, is if you're a Bartender user who doesn't want to update, is concerned about the new owner, maybe doesn't use a menu bar manager at all, but has thought about it, there are many options. So
if you have a MacBook Pro or anything with a notch, you need
it.
Because the icons will disappear behind the notch.
They will vanish behind the notch, or they'll get kicked out by the menu bar menus on your app that you're using.
Yeah, so I'm showing it right now. I don't know if you can see it because it's kind of tiny on my show my screen because it's up at the top. It's a little tiny.
Oh, I see. Up at the top. Yeah.
See there? I'm using Hidden Bar to do
Hidden Bar. Okay, so these are your options. Hidden Bar is free. It's open source. It hasn't been updated in 4 years, but it is open source.
It works.
And you can download it from the GitHub project if you want to, and it works. There might be a memory leak in Tahoe. It's unclear, but it works. And it's free.
Also in the Mac App Store.
Which yes, it's in the Mac App Store. Yes, exactly. There's a one called Ice. It is also free and open source. There is a GitHub link that that the developer will give you. They're currently in beta with a new version that works better and doesn't have a memory leak in Tahoe. But Ice is nice. And it rhymes. There's Vanilla from Matthew Palmer.
Ironically, Vanilla Ice. Okay, yeah.
This is what's happening here. I don't know why. Vanilla is from Matthew Palmer, who's the guy who wrote Rocket, which is a great emoji utility for the Mac. Vanilla is, you can try it for free, but the pro version that's the most functional is $10. And in the Mac App Store, a thing I discovered only when researching this pick is an app called Barbie, Barbee. Barbie is a $12 app that also is it's a free within-app purchase of a $12 lifetime buy, or you can do a subscription. That's also a menu bar manager. So the beauty of this is all 4 of these you can try for free and see if there's a menu bar manager that speaks to you and use it to organize your menu bar.
May I ask which one you use?
I have been using Hidden Bar, but I think it's getting a little weird on Tahoe, and I may go through this shopping process myself because that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it to the table, is that I'm actually not sure which one of these I like the most, but I really like the idea of this because, and you might be saying, well, I just drag it off the menu bar if I don't want to see it, but it's there are ones that I want to see occasionally, but not in my face all the time.
Right.
And so what these utilities do is they give you a little space where you can drag them, and then they vanish until you mouse over or click on an expansion. The UI is varied between these apps, so you can get to it when you want it, but you don't have to see it all the time. Or if you're on something like a MacBook Pro with a notch, you have a second tier of them. Then you mouse up and the second tier appears, and but normally it's not there because they're not as important. It's nice. It's nice. So
I feel like I should be unhappy with Hidden Bar. I might have to look at these other ones.
If Hidden Bar works for you, it's great. That's the one I've been using.
Anything.
I noticed some weirdnesses in Tahoe, but they've been up. That was in the beta process, so they may be fine now.
Right.
Yeah.
The one review that's complaining says when you install something new, it gets sent to the hidden section, which is actually exactly the behavior that may be what
you want. Yeah. Yeah. But what I like is
until you decide whether you want it on your regular bar or not.
It's got to earn its place in the visible section of my menu bar. But anyway, do not be subject to the whims of many items in your menu bar. You can manage them with one of these many utilities, all of which you can try for free, and some of which are completely free.
Are we going to ever get rid of the notch on MacBooks?
Yeah, I think Gurman suggested that it may be going away with those the M6 MacBook Pro, the OLED, either going away or reduced. Right, it could be just like a little tiny cutout instead.
Yeah, you can. They're starting to work on through the screen cameras for the selfie cams, and that would be nice if they gave us the full screen back.
Sure would be.
I would like that. Mm-hmm. Mr. Jason Snell, he lives at sixcolors.com. That's his publication.
Thank you.
You're hiring better people. More. No,
I'm just getting
came
my
out
friends.
Wrong. You're hiring wonderful people like Glenn Fleischman. I see a young Shelley Brisbane there from time to time.
Yep.
Of course, you and Dan Moran, you do a great job.
Thank you. I don't know if we said it on this show, but just to throw it out there, when I started in this business at Mac User as a summer intern in the summer of 1993, one of the editors there was Shelley Brisbane, and one of the columnists was Andy Ihnatko. So you are viewing the Mac User staff from the 90s right now.
When I try to explain to people how long Jason and I have been friends, the usual thing I go to is Jason taught me how to boldface things in HTML. That's how long we are as friends.
Nice.
Yeah, Shelley, for a period of time. We
just talk about the internet map.
Yeah, for a period of time, Shelley and I were literally the only people on the magazine staff who did the internet.
Right.
And
There's this thing called Mosaic. Check it out.
Yeah, we did create a thing called the Internet Roadmap with my collaborator Jeff Duncan as well, who wrote a hypercard stack for that. And Shelley and I had the delight of discovering that it was in like an art gallery in Boston where they were selling it as an object of the 90s for like several $100s, and I'm like, I think I've got 5 or 6 of those in a bin in my garage. Anyway, so Shelley is OG, and she just works in legitimate radio now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a step up, a step down, a step sideways. I don't know. I make podcasts too, so
I think it's very, very smart. Again, some of us are like chasing TikTok and chasing like all these micro apps. We're just about ready to pivot to terrestrial radio.
It's the next big thing. I can assure you. That's Andy Ihnatko.
Not yet.
.bluesky.social.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Somewhere in the Cloudflare. Thank you, Andrew, Mr. MacBreak Leafy. And of course, Shelley Brisbane. Thank you so much. TexasStandard.bluesky.social or go to TexasStandard.org or Shelley.brisbane.net or all
so many ways, so many things.
Is it only Texas or do you get heard in other locales?
Well, I mean, we're available as a podcast. So we're syndicated on 30 Texas public radio stations. And then you can grab us anytime at your favorite podcast establishment.
There are a lot of Texans going, I know that voice.
I hope so. There's some expats who listen to us too. So,
that's nice. Yeah.
Jason, can I point out that I just hit on eBay. There's a copy of the Mac User Internet Roadmap listed as a rare collectible, $3,000 or better. with free delivery.
You get a free Mac Pro with that.
Somebody, email me if you want one for $2,500.
Jason, could you put that on a shirt? Maybe we'll sell this in a comparable bit.
And it was literally just a giveaway in. I think it was a
magazine.
It was either bagged or it was a subscriber premium or something. But yeah, but they needed somebody to do it.
It's in the Dave Rumsey historical map collection. If you want to zoom in and take a look at that.
You know what? Jason, I'm gonna email you because
sponsored by Farallon.
Yeah, and Lisa Orsini, I think maybe, and Diane Dempsey were the art directors on that, and so they designed it.
You could actually have the entire internet on one page.
Not only that,
entire internet is generous,
but all the connections on the map were legitimate links, which is what we used Yahoo, which was the big directory at that time. And Jeff Duncan wrote a crawler. It was probably one of the first web crawlers ever in HyperCard. And he was the one who generated the data that led to the map. It was a pretty awesome
I always forget
project.
He did that in HyperCard. I knew he did the crawler, but I didn't know
HyperCard. At the time, we thought that was a ridiculous thing to do. And now, only more so.
Wonderful. You can actually buy a print of this. I'm sure less than $3,000. From the Dave Rumsey Map Collection. Dave Rumsey Cartography Associates.
I wonder who has the copyright on that. It's probably IDG because they bought the assets of Mac User and integrated into Macworld. So it's probably I'll talk to Roman Loyola over at Macworld and see if we can.
I can get it on a 24 by 36 2 by 3 foot canvas for only $370.
I don't think. I mean, who's going to?
How about a wall peel?
I mean, even I'm not going to do that. My wall decorations are a little more modern.
The internet in 1993 or 1995 or whenever it was.
Well, that's historic now, right?
It is.
It's this is amazing.
And I think we did manage to get in a few sites that we each sort of liked. I mean, it was web crawled, but they were like, "Oh, this is something I like. We need to put it on." And
because we were guiding the crawling of it. That is the case for sure. And also, I think all the Yahoo links are Akabono.stanford.edu.
Oh,
before they went out on their own. So old times.
They were
Gopher.
And Archie.
Gopher.
And Archie
and Veronica and all the
Gopher, Veronica,
just amazing.
Wow! And there's the top level Gopher at the University of Minnesota.
I was trying to point out how deep we are into the subject matter, and now I just feel like I pointed out how old we are.
That's old, man.
Pretty much.
Yikes.
Again, legitimacy. Legitimacy.
Bravo. Thank you to all our club members who make this show possible. We really appreciate your support. 25% of our operating income comes from the club. And that's both a great success and a wonderful, heartwarming stat. And kind of an indication that we need it. If you want us to keep doing the stuff we do, yesterday we finished our D&D adventure with Micah Sargent as our dungeon master and Paris Martineau and Paul Thurrott and Jonathan Bennett. It was so much fun. Jacob Ward and I. And anyway, those are the kinds of things we do in the Club Twit Discord. You get access to the Discord. You get all that extra programming. You get ad-free versions of all of our shows. And right now, if you go to twit.tv/clubtwit, there's a coupon for 10% off the annual membership. Great for gift giving as well. twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you in advance. We really appreciate our club members. We stream this show every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1900 UTC on in the Club Twit Discord, of course, but also YouTube, Twitch, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. You can watch there, chat with us there. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show, audio and video, are available at our website, twit.tv/MBW. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to MacBreak Weekly, a great way to share clips with friends and family. And of course, you can always subscribe in your favorite podcast client. Move us up to the top of the Apple charts if you want to use Apple's podcast, but we don't care. Anyone you want to use, if you subscribe, that's great. Also audio or video or both. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next time. And now, as I have said for the last almost 20 years, by the way, next episode is episode 1000.
Yeah.
Wow.
That will give you some idea of how long.
If we make it.
If we make it, we may not make it.
So again, Club Twit.
Nothing is given. Nothing is given in this world. So yeah, come back for episode 1000. We're not going to do anything special, so don't get your hopes up.
I'm going to buy a cake.
Okay, we can all each of us.
When do I have an excuse to like buy an entire cake and just enjoy it myself?
I was planning, but I think it's too late now to send each of you a frozen 12-pack of Runzas. But maybe I won't do that after all because I think it's too late. There's a lead time. They only make them twice a month. Do you know what Runzas are?
No,
I don't.
Oh, then you're missing out. That's all I can say. You can look it up. It's a Midwest tradition.
I've never admitted publicly that I don't know what a Runza is.
You know what? I thought of the Runza because I figured you probably grew up eating pierogies.
Oh, yeah. These are those Midwestern Hot Pockets, aren't they?
Yeah, they're basically, Hot Pockets. Sizzling steak, grilled onions, and gooey cheese. They're actually delicious.
I'll stick to kolaches, which is our local, but I wouldn't mind a free one, but.
No, we got to do something. We'll dress up. We'll wear hats.
We'll do something. We'll wear hats.
Next
something. 1000th episode. But until then, it's time to get back to work because
break time is over.
It's over. See you next time. Bye-bye.